I ask whether there is really no way, and my face is not doing anything pleasant. I have genuinely accepted Na Yu by now. We have a child coming, and I am not prepared to hand this one over. He tells me it is not that there is no way, but that they lack the connections and the resources. It would take a fourth order or even a fifth order god, skilled in healing besides. The Na family is small, and reaching experts at that level is very nearly impossible. Perhaps the family head could reach them, but nobody spends a favor of that size on this. Then he gives me the practical version. Develop my divine kingdom well, get into a good university, and if I can take a powerful god as my teacher there may be a road to solving Yuya's problem. My eyes light up, and I do not bother hiding it. He tells me the intention is already enough, and that Yuya would not want me pouring all my energy into something that ethereal when the two of us have a child on the way. I tell him I understand, and mean that too. He moves on to the warnings. Yuya has told him that many people want to buy the wonders in my divine kingdom, meaning Spirit Peach Mountain and the Enlightenment Stone, and he tells me I sell them to nobody. Once those things leave a divine kingdom, they can never be bought back. I am still a student, he adds, and under federal law, not even a god would dare move against me. I tell him I understand, and I would have refused without the lecture. Selling irreplaceable buildings so I can buy ordinary resources to put back in would be a species of madness. Then he gets to the part he has been circling. During this midterm exam, he says, I made that girl Na being genuinely angry, and if the family head were a smaller man, I would be facing much harder years. He tells me to ease the relationship if I get the chance. My expression goes complicated. Na Bing is a block of ice under the best circumstances. I have offended her all the way down to the bone, and I cannot picture an approach that would not make it worse. Honestly, I will be thanking heaven if she simply declines to come looking for me. He tells me a person is strong in wisdom and weak in strength, and that the human race stands upright among alien civilizations by pooling what everyone has. My harvest is large enough to make gods envious, he says, and I bought it with the goodwill of everyone around me. After the college entrance examination, we all go to university, and the students of Yang County ought to be the people I lean on. If I cannot repair those relationships, he says, I will be fighting alone, and he sighs deeply enough that the helplessness is audible. He would know better than anyone. If an alien race attacks a divine kingdom, the family's gods come to support it. When a man goes out to reclaim land, war consumes his believers and his overall strength wears down a little at a time. So friends who share the pressure cut the risk enormously. Allies who defend and reclaim together are not built out of interest alone. They come from a family's own offensive and defensive alliance, or from people who have known each other since childhood. After this exam, my reputation is finished, and he is asking who would ever dare cooperate with me now. I tell him I will try. After Na Songpeng logs out, I sit with it and decide he was right about all of it, so I open the Genius Exchange group. I write that I am sorry and ask how everyone would feel about letting me treat them to a meal at the Heavenly Fragrance World by way of apology. I click send. The reply is instant and it is not from a person. The group informs me that the deputy group leader Li Chonhang has removed me and that I can no longer send or receive messages. A red exclamation mark comes up beside my one line of contrition. I sit quietly for a while with the screen in front of me. Then I tell myself that the strong have always been lonely, which is the only comfort available at this price point. Unfortunately, I have also just lost another source of information. In the family head's room at the Na residence, Na Bing asks her father whether he has lost his mind. He has convened the council of elders for a boy named Yang Baeom. Na He answers that he is head of the Na family, and funding outstanding descendants is simply the job. She throws the word outstanding back and asks whether a boy who would never have walked out of that alien divine kingdom without her help qualifies. Watching his daughter talk back for the first time in years, Na He laughs out loud. He tells her, still swallowing it, that she is genuinely angry and the kid is genuinely annoying. She is not finished. That scoundrel treated all of them like fools, and now her father is raising his investment instead of helping her get revenge. Na He turns serious and says he watched the school's footage, and nothing Yang Bom did was a problem. When she asks why, he answers with a question. Would a man who cannot afford a meal pick up 10 million lying in the road, or step over it? She says it is one thing to use the rules against that alien demigod, and another to turn around and use the Na family afterward. Her father asks what she would have done if the boy had told her the truth. She has no answer, because most people would have made him hand the assets over. Yang Biom made the choice that served him best. Her father says, and in his place he would have done the same. The ones who were truly wrong were all of them. In Divine Kingdom pioneering, the greatest taboo is handing your trust entirely to somebody else. Those so-called companions might knife you in a real war and plunder your foundation. So counted honestly, this was a free lesson. Na Bing says her father misjudged the person too, because a friend like that would run first at the sight of danger. Na He concedes it, saying the kid lies without so much as blinking. He tells her to stay away from him, but not to target him, since he is still not family. She says classes are being redivided soon, so it will not be her turn anyway, and walks out angry. That evening, the Genius Exchange group for the class of 2026 catches fire. Even Lee Chon-hang, who almost never talks there, starts making arrangements. Yang Biom arrives in Class 1 the day after tomorrow, and Teacher Joe should open a battlefield for the occasion. Half a dozen volunteer for the first round, one arguing she was schemed against most miserably and deserves it. Lee Suho's legs shake as he reads, and he does not dare type a character in case somebody remembers he once spoke up for me. Lee Chang-hang ends the argument by claiming the first round and laying down a decree. Whenever a teacher opens a Divine Kingdom battlefield, not one of Yang Biom's believers may survive. Whoever fails answers to him next round, and anyone who helps Yang Biom outside class gets challenged later. Yang Biom goes to the top of the Yang County First High School list of scoundrels, who must be executed. I know none of this. I have been kicked out of the group chat, and I am at home turning over the family head's gift. The entry calls the Sea of Flesh and Blood pool a B-rank building worth 5 billion faith points. Injective flesh and blood essence renders into blood water, and any believer soaked in it gains a significant increase in physical strength. The evaluation says it suits the martial cultivation path, with a warning that it eats resources long-term. My mouth curls before I can stop it, because I had already settled on fusing cultivation and martial cultivation. I load the Sea of Flesh and Blood pool next to the Baekryong blood pool. Since Bongnay Island and Spirit Peach Mountain went down, two different auras live inside my divine kingdom. The immortal energy on the island is upright and peaceful, while the blood pools give off something bloody and heavy in the throat. The island repels them, and forced together the two powers would grind each other down. So the plan writes itself, with cultivation talents on the island and martial believers on the ground. Winning the midterm bought me more than a wonder. The 10 billion faith points from the school have landed, and with the Ney family's 2 billion, my liquid assets sit at 12.4 billion. Then there is the loot. Out of the alien divine kingdom, I dragged home nearly 100 C-rank granaries, uncounted spiritual fruits, 10,000 fire spirit peach trees, low-level spirit plants, and assorted defensive buildings. All of it is piled in the southwest corner, some spirit plants already damaged. None of it is valuable individually, but the volume could bring another billion. My divine sense drifts over the heap, and I get an immediate headache, because even a god can be worn out in advance by a job that size. So I messaged Na Song Pung, since cataloging all this myself might take a month. My time is worth more than that, or at least I would like it to be. Grandfather answers fast. He tells me to buy an advanced intelligent life, since my net worth covers one, and adds that plenty of demigods will not spend on that, so I hit it big. The mall values one at 2 billion faith points, produced by a Tier 6 mechanical divine kingdom. It is bred out of the will of a deity and the power of rules, carrying high logical capability and independent thought. Its core characteristic is absolute loyalty, because its thinking is bound to the deity's origin and cannot be eroded from outside. It executes that will unconditionally and always judges for the divine kingdom's overall interest. The rest reads like a job description written by somebody in love with the applicant. It perceives the structure and operational status of the divine kingdom in real time, and plans across resource flow, believer development, and civilization progress. Granted secondary control rights, it allocates resources, adjusts structures, and executes construction instructions, which the listing calls the core auxiliary hub of a divine kingdom. It also connects to external systems such as mall transactions and stock trading, assessing value and making trade decisions. So it is a supercomputer that woke up, and I can ask it whatever I want instead of trawling the exchange groups and the God forum every day. I open the chat box with Na Seong Pung and ask how something this good only costs 2 billion. His answer comes as a voice message, and his tone fires like a machine gun. The market is supply and demand, he says. Once the mechanical divine kingdoms finished developing the advanced intelligent life, they mass-produced it, the price fell, and basically every god owns one now. Then he wants to know since when 2 billion counts as cheap, given that most demigods do not have this gadget. 2 billion can turn a divine creature's whole divine kingdom upside down. He finishes by asking whether I think everyone is born with a silver spoon, or gets as lucky as I did on the way out the door. I get the feeling my wife's grandfather is jealous of me. I take a gentle breath and click purchase. A new consciousness appears inside my divine kingdom, nothing like a believer, with no body at all. A milky white ball of light floats up and asks me to select an external image, a personality, and a name. I tell it to randomize a young woman, capable personality named Yang 1. The image generates, and the light settles into a woman of about 20 in a business suit. She bows and asks for secondary authority, saying Yang 1 will help her master plan the divine kingdom. I tell her she may, and snap my fingers, and the authority crosses. She is bound to my divine source, another form of life here, and the one believer I can trust without reservation, because betrayal is not something she is built to be capable of. Her body straightens as the authority lands, and data flickers across her eyes like a screen refreshing. She reports that the Divine Kingdom inspection is complete, and all information received, so I give her the first order, which is to organize the pile in the southwest and list every piece of it online. She asks whether to sell at market price, and I tell her yes. She answers almost before I finish. Total revenue is 1.127 billion, and after personal income tax and transaction tax, the net comes to 992 million. Historical data puts a 90% probability on every transaction closing inside 1 hour and 24 minutes. I look and find the heap already sorted, cataloged and wired into the mall. When I ask how that is possible, she says flatly that her computing power is roughly 12.42 million times mine. Even if the assets were 1,000 times larger, she adds, she could process them instantly. She is reciting a measurement, the way you would read a thermometer. I swallow and ask what level of intelligent life she belongs to. She is a 4th-class intelligent life equivalent to the nascent soul stage or a martial emperor on the martial path. This one is the service type, she adds, with no attack or defense capability, so its value is not high. I tell her that using her to sort junk wastes a martial emperor. She asks for more resource mobilization authority because there are many problems that need solving. When I ask what problems, she starts at the top and does not stop. I have planted far too many blood-condensing flowers whose annualized return runs at 363%. The profit is excellent, but the Divine Kingdom is finite, so the crop cannot scale and is strangling population growth. And all of it should be sold. The primary investment should be the monkey wine spring at 60% annualized, effectively zero-cost long-term because Spirit Peach Mountain feeds it. Since Bongne Island keeps the ecology stable, the low-level assets should be packaged and sold together, meaning the Bodhi treasure snake, the Dark Knight vulture, the Spirit fish baby, and the water lotus. Spirit Peach Mountain needs a large harvest labor force, so C-rank breeding cards should be purchased immediately. The population carrying limit sits near 40 million, and she strongly recommends maxing it out. Considering the explosion that follows and the meat demand of the martial path, 4 automatic concentrators and a large quantity of Tazy meat become necessary. She delivers over 100 proposals in the tone of a precise machine reading a manifest. I tell her to stop, that development is hers from here, and ask how much mobilization she needs. Her assessment is that her master's status is high school student, which puts invasion probability extremely low, so the focus belongs on investment and cultivating believers. She requests 90% of the resource mobilization power plus disposal rights over every asset below B rank. I hand it over on the spot. If she is a university doctorate, my own intelligence is somewhere around amoeba. The employee is absolutely loyal and absolutely capable, and a boss who refuses to delegate to that is a fool. Back in reality, I can feel the Divine Kingdom moving. Faith points circulate between my world and the mall in a steady current, and Yang One is ruthless with them, spending another 6 billion on 3 more monkey wine springs. Every low-level demonic beast I bought has been bundled and sold, and in a few breaths, the whole place has changed shape. It lists me as Divine Lord Yang Biome, area 1 million square kilometers, talent F-rank resource talent with all resources growing 10% faster. Beneath that sits the SSS-Rank evolution talent, unique, able to accelerate evolution, currently hidden. Believers stand at 52 Tier 2 beings, 1,844 Tier 1 beings, and 1.02 million mortals, with 122 little spirits as retainers. Techniques on file are the 5 elements cultivation technique, the Vajra indestructible technique, and the Federal body refining technique. Behind those sit the muscle and tendon strengthening and marrow cleansing technique, and the myriad spirits return to origin array at great mastery. Faith points sit at 4.2 billion, providing 40.2 a day. The buildings run 1,000 moon wells and 1,000 sun springs, the ancient spirit tree at 1,000 years and currently gestating little spirits, and the enlightenment stone. After those come 5 B-rank monkey wine springs, 1 sea of flesh and blood pool, and 1 Baekryong blood pool soaking 10 teas. The column closes with 1 automatic concentrator whose cutting factory carries 100 te, 5 C-rank transmission towers, and 5 F-rank cities of steel. Bongne Island and Spirit Peach Mountain are listed as deployed wonders. My assets hold 2 flat peach trees, 110 te, 7,000 sets of E-rank weapons, and 40,000 sets of F-rank weapons. The midterm did not only gut my Tier 2 and Tier 1 believers, it dropped my ordinary mortals back to 1 million. With breeding cards and the evolution talent behind them, that number will climb again faster than anyone watching would believe. The environment inside has changed past recognition too, because the immortal chi rolling off Bongne Island is slowly raising the aptitude of my believers. Stacked on that are blood pills from the Baekryong blood pool, the body tempering of the sea of flesh and blood pool, and endless spiritual fruit. Their strength is about to enter a stretch of rapid advancement. Priced against what monkey wine sells for, the monkey wine spring is already my main income. In 30 internal years, one spring brews 100 bottles worth 100 million, so 1 month outside earns 100 million, and with tenfold evolution it is a billion. 5 springs make that 5 billion faith points a month. Yang One has worked out how much I care about the ancient spirit tree, because she has not touched a single sunspring or moon well. Those alone keep a fixed 60 million a month coming in. She built her projection on 30 internal years to the outside month, since she cannot see the evolution talent, and never will. Every timeline she hands me is exactly 1/10 of the truth. I multiply her numbers quietly in my own head and give the order she was going to receive anyway. It is a strange feeling being the only person in my own world who knows what the calendar really says. The more capital a man holds, the more relaxed he gets, and an advanced intelligent life is the ultimate worker. With everything handled, I open my door and call down to Na Yu, who is chatting with my mother in the living room. She tells my mother politely that she is going up now. My mother hums and warns her that we have not seen each other in a month, so there will be no fooling around and she is to be careful of her belly. Her eyes stay on me upstairs the whole time, with a clear warning in them. Yu goes red and tells her not to talk nonsense. Once the bedroom door closes, she seems oddly constrained. When I ask what is wrong, she presses her lips together and says it is nothing. She had not expected me to be this incredible, ranked first in the whole grade, and even undamaged her divine kingdom would not have made her worthy of me. I tell her that is nonsense, and that I am transferring her 100 million faith points. There is no need to be frugal, and she should buy as much water of life as she needs. She starts to protest, and I keep going. Once we reach university, I will find a way to resolve the poisonous fog in her divine kingdom, and she should trust me. She looks at how serious my face is and nods. In the past, she filed lines like that away as comfort, and she does not doubt me now. Then she murmurs that it is not very convenient for her and suggests in a voice like a mosquito that I could visit the heavenly fragrance world. I ask what is going through her head, tell her to sleep, then pick her up, and we go into dreamland together. Early the next morning, my consciousness sinks into my divine kingdom and I am struck dumb. The 4 cities of steel are gone, and one enormous city of technology sprawls from the north end to the south. The buildings carry a cold, sharp luster, surfaces laced with runes and circuitry. The ground is not soil and fenced paths anymore. It is all paved, straight wide roads run out like veins, and countless light rails cross at ground level and in midair. Something whirs past below me, a nuclear-powered bus like the ones I ride in Yang County. Higher up, supersonic aircraft shuttle between Bongnay Island and the ground, and fairyland and technology sit fused in eerie harmony. Around Spirit Peach Mountain, large groups of humans have been settled, with towns laid out around the slopes. Spiritual fruit ripens across the mountain, and countless mortals move among the trees, picking, hauling, and sorting. Automatic harvesters run in some areas, and a portion of the fruit goes to the monkey wine springs, while a much larger portion fills warehouses. The primitive society my divine kingdom used to be is gone, replaced by industrialized production and a civilization to match. I hang in the air and fail, for a moment, to recognize my own domain. Somebody explain what happened in one night, because I chose a fusion of cultivation and martial paths, and the technology tree has been maxed out behind my back. Yang One's face appears and welcomes her master to the inspection. Given the abundance of funds and long-term development, she says, she bought a city of technology worth 500 million in a single step. Its land area adjusts automatically up to 2 million square kilometers, so it will still serve after I become a god. I rub my temples and ask whether the city sits oddly against the primitive forest on either side. She tells me the question has no value. The city of technology provides a comfortable living environment, efficient transit, and extremely low logistics costs. She has also shut down a large number of entertainment facilities and combined with the breeding card that maximizes the birth rate. The believer population is severely insufficient, she says, and that is the primary consideration, while environmental matching has no correlation with development at all. I ask about the supersonic planes. Using her superior negotiation skills, she says she had the merchant include 5 with built-in controllable nuclear fusion power. They can fly non-stop for 100 million years, and are barely sufficient for movement between the 2 locations. Once the believers reach the chi refining realm, the planes can be resold at a discount in the mall. I give her a thumbs up, because there is nothing else to give. The combination of technology and cultivation looks strange, but my believers develop far faster now. She then applies to list my 2B rank flat peach trees for sale, and spend 500 million on a B rank fresh storage warehouse. The rate of return on the flat peach trees is too low, she says. My believers are still too weak and in the basic stage of reproduction, so lifespan is no concern and cultivating those trees has no value. Keeping them makes the time cost of that capital too high. The fresh storage warehouse follows spatial laws with a storage area of 500,000 square kilometers, enough to preserve everything coming off Spirit Peach Mountain. I asked the obvious question, which is why we would store fruit we cannot finish instead of selling it. Spirit Peach Mountain really is a wonder, and under the immortal chi from Bongne Island, it puts out every sort of spiritual fruit every year. Between the 5 monkey wine springs and everything my believers can eat, we do not consume 1% of it. The quality is nothing special, but the quantity is absurd. Yang One answers that, under her planning, the monkey wine spring will be one of her master's principal income streams. If we ever buy spiritual fruit off the market to brew monkey wine, the annualized profit margin collapses to 40%. Based on current output, we can still support 100 more springs, and only at 100 million believers will supply and demand barely balance. Selling the fruit now and buying it back high later is worse than spending 500 million in solving the root problem. I tell her the consideration is comprehensive, and I agree. This is what an advanced intelligent life is, rational thinking applied to every practical problem. Having watched her work, I decide to stop interfering with my divine kingdom's development altogether. With an all-around believer carrying that load, what exactly am I worrying about? I put on my helmet and arrive in the virtual world for the day's lessons. Unlike ordinary believers, Yang One can speak to me anywhere. I tell her that having her does not mean I get to slack off, and during class she should feed anything I do not understand into my mind. She says that is no problem, since managing the divine kingdom and answering my questions consume less than 1/millionth of her computing power. Her tone never fluctuates, and I always come away feeling insulted anyway. At the classroom, Zhang Peng does not greet me for once, and hides in a corner like a man who has seen a ghost. I pick a seat at random, and the classmates around me instantly relocate to the far walls. Is this necessary, when Na Bing and Li Chonhang are not even in this room? Yang One informs me that she has browsed every web page connected to Yang County First High School, including the message boards and forums. I am the public enemy of the entire institution. The campaign was initiated by Li Chonhang, who targets anyone on good terms with me and has posted a 10 million reward for dirt. School bullying then, with a bounty attached and a leaderboard. She continues, giving a 94.2% probability that class assignments are announced today. On my midterm results, I will certainly be sent to Class 1. The learning content there breaks into 3 pieces. First, applying for public Divine Kingdom battlefields where believers fight in their physical bodies. Second, the Divine Kingdom Defense War under restrictions. Third, extracurricular activities including exploring divine kingdoms whose gods have died alongside classmates. Judging by the boards and the comments beneath them, she puts the probability of her master being bullied at 99.9%. I point out that we are only sitting in a classroom for lessons, and swallow hard. Class 7 goes the logistics direction and is theory-oriented, she explains, whereas Class 1 is entirely war-oriented and practice-oriented. I ask whether there is real danger. There is no danger to the Divine Kingdom core, she says, but a badly handled battle can kill believers in large numbers and drag down development. When I ask for a solution, she gives me one line, which is to rapidly increase believer strength. I tell her to hurry up and think of something. She applies to purchase the B-rank spirit weapon forged with a small mineral vein, and I approve it. She applies for 200 million to buy alien corpses and run them through the sea of flesh and blood pool, raising believer survival, and I approve that too. She starts a third application and I cut her off, telling her everything is approved and to stop dawdling. Sitting in a classroom emptied out around me, I am glad I bought her because without Yang One I would not even know danger was walking toward me. Fine, let them bully me now. Once I have grown, every one of them can call me sir. With Bongne Island, Spirit Peach Mountain and the evolution talent under me, I do not believe I cannot catch Na Bing and Li Cheonhang. Yang One relays a private message from Zhang Peng, who does not dare talk to me and asks me not to blame him. He has weak arms and legs and cannot handle what is coming. I tell her to reply and instruct him to keep his distance for now. Then Li Chongyun walks in, and her face is glowing. She is humming a little tune, which is not a thing anybody has heard her do. She looks at me with a face full of smiles until my skin crawls. Then she announces slowly that the midterms are over. She congratulates Young Baeom and Lee Soo-ho on promotion to Class 1, and Wang Jin-woo on promotion to Class 3, and says we transfer tomorrow, with coordinates going to our wristwatches later. After that, she produces a chair out of nowhere, sits down and declares there will be no class today and we will simply chat. She opens by congratulating me on first place in the grade and calling for applause, then claps vigorously to lead it. The room does not follow, and many cannot bring themselves to look up. She does not care, and turns to me to say that as a teacher she is very fortunate to have a student like me. I wonder what has happened to Teacher Lee, canceling class in favor of chatting. Yang Wen explains that the teaching staff receive rewards based on the midterm rankings, so I made my homeroom teacher rich, which explains the gentle looks. Then Yang Wen adds, in exactly the same flat tone, that first place every year comes out of Class 1, so when her master transfers, that homeroom teacher will look at him differently too. My whole body goes cold, because I have not even reached the new class and I have already offended the teacher waiting for me. The aftermath of one midterm exam keeps getting larger every time I check on it. Lee Chung-young, seeing nobody is interested in chatting either, dismisses class and tells me to stay behind. In her office, she sets a card on the table and tells me to work hard, because this is a gift. I have not looked at it properly before Yang-won reads it out in my head. It is a D-rank array called the Black Tortoise Life Extinguishing Array, deployable by up to 1 million believers at once, excelling in defense priced at 100 million faith points. She tells me slowly that with my comprehension I should be qualified to study it now. If I can get started with it, the rest of my third year will be much easier. There is a trace of pity behind her eyes. I thank her with my mouth twitching, and she waves me off with one last piece of advice. The teacher of Class 1 is named Joe Mang. His temper runs hot, and I should stay out of his way. Back in reality, I pull off the helmet and let out a breath. The rest of my school life is not going to be easy. While I am sitting there feeling sorry for myself, a surge of power goes through me, because a Tier 3 creature has been born inside my divine kingdom. I cast my consciousness in, and find him beside the Enlightenment Stone on Bongnae Island, exactly where I would have guessed. Under the double blessing of island and stone, with tenfold evolution underneath, my believers grow stronger at a rate that no longer surprises me. I ask Yang-won where their strength ranks inside Class 1. There are 228 students there, she says, and committing every believer I own would rank me around 100th. That low, I ask. Judging from the midterm footage, her master's advantage lies in troop replenishment, while individual believer strength is too weak. Even mastery of the myriad spirits return to origin array leaves me without much of an edge. Then she gives me a forecast. There is a 95% probability Class 1 applies for the public battlefield tomorrow with 10,000 believers aside, and I can send believers of different strengths to hold losses down. Given 100 years of Divine Kingdom time, she is confident she can raise my believers into the class top 10. By then, even Na Bing and Li Chun-hang might not be willing to pay the price of fighting me to the death. My eyes light up, because she is budgeting 100 days and I know it is 10. She will never know that, and I will never explain it, and the gap between her schedule and my calendar is the one asset she cannot audit. She adds that with the Enlightenment Stone helping, my believers are barely qualified to begin comprehending the Black Tortoise Life Extinguishing Array. If they master the basics, I can take several opponents at once in a Divine Kingdom defense war. I tell her to load it immediately and let them start. Unlike me, Yang-won never gets tired. The moment surplus appears, she lists it, whether Moonlight Dew, Yang Essence, Monkey Wine, or weapons out of the Spirit Weapon Forge we bought this morning. The moment faith points accumulate, she buys another Monkey Wine Spring, or more Moon Wells and Sun Springs, and compounds again. If I used to compound by the month, she compounds by the hour, and my Divine Kingdom trades with the outside world every moment of the day. The next day I put the helmet on reluctantly and walk into the Class 1 classroom. The layout is no different from Class 7, and I recognize far too many faces. Na Bing and Lee Chun-hang's 7-member team are here, with that insufferable Nam Young-hyun, Lee Soo-ho, and Chael Pung of the Blacksmith Association. Every gaze that turns my way carries disgust or enjoyment or plain hostility. I take a corner seat and a figure immediately plants itself in front of me, telling me through gritted teeth that this is his seat and I should go to the back. I know this one. His name is Lee Shung-tak. He was part of the original 7-member team, short-tempered and, to be fair, loyal. Behind him, Nam Young-hyun sits with his legs crossed like a man who bought a ticket. He remarks how satisfying this is, asks what good talent is worth when I have offended so many people, and wonders how I intend to survive here. I do not argue and take the very last corner seat instead. Dignity is not handed to you by other people, and in the end it comes down to strength. I did let them down, and I have no interest in fighting over furniture. Lee Song-taek watches me swallow it and looks ready to curse me out, but the homeroom teacher is arriving, so he swallows it too. A middle-aged man with a square face steps onto the podium. There are new faces, he says, so he will introduce himself again, that his name is Joe Mang and he is our new homeroom teacher. For today's first class he covers one thing, which is that we give up our lazy habits, because students in Class 1 are all on the path of war. He does not care how we develop our divine kingdoms in our spare time, and his class teaches one subject: war. He does not talk about divine kingdom ecology, which he calls deceptive nonsense, and nothing as boring as investment. How to attack an alien divine kingdom, the most efficient way to rob it of resources, how to balance population against weapons and food, how to apply arrays, and what the taboos of war are. Every class will involve combat, and he says it in the register of a battle-hardened general, with a divine aura that makes the room shiver. Then he asks who Yang Biom is. I take a deep breath and raise my left hand. Teacher Joe narrows his eyes and says he watched the midterm footage. My adaptability, my control of the battlefield, and my nerve when spending believers were all good, and I am very talented. Doubt arrives immediately because praise is not what I prepared for. Then he adds that next time he hopes those methods land on an alien divine kingdom and not on my own kind. He is a teacher now, he says, but also a frontline soldier. What he despises most are men who cut corners in war, who go timid facing an alien divine kingdom, and who turn insidious on their own people. He asks whether I understand, and the divine aura comes down on me like a dropped ceiling. My head feels ready to split open, and what I am feeling, precisely, is death. Yang Wen's voice arrives in the middle of it, telling me this is an illusion generated by the virtual world and my body is safe. I raise my head slowly and look the man back in the eye coldly. The homeroom teacher of Class 1 certainly knows how to make an impression. Teacher Joe looks surprised at how fast I adjust, says my eyes are not bad, and announces he would like to see my combat ability. He raises his right hand and applies for the real Divine Kingdom battlefield. The podium, the desks, and the floor dissolve like data being deleted, and arena after arena unfolds where the classroom was. A voice out of the void announces the teaching version, limited to 10,000 participants, with coordinates shielded. Shielding completes, and we may freely organize battles. Teacher Joe stands with his hands behind his back and lays out the rules. Nobody may challenge the same person twice in a row inside a month, and everyone fields their strongest believers. If a formation breaks or slaughter begins, the side holding the advantage stops immediately, so the loser's development is not damaged. He will point out each student's problems, because only real Divine Kingdom war improves anyone quickly. The class pairs off in seconds. One boy reminding another to go easy after the limb restoration pill he had to buy last time. Everyone finds an opponent, and I am the one left standing. Lee Chonhang walks over and observes that it is just the two of us left, smugness sitting at the front of his eyes. I ask Yang Won what I should do. She tells me he holds a C-rank Mad Blood talent and has already birthed Tier 5 beings, and there is no chance of winning. I sigh and ask whether I can simply not fight, and she says there is no precedent for surrendering without a fight. So I ask whether I can fight once, and surrender immediately after. Lee Cho-hang says sure, with something cruel crossing his face. On the arena, he summons 10 Tier 5 beings, 1,000 Tier 4 beings, and Tier 3 beings behind them. Looking at that formation, I do not believe my strongest could hold the first charge. Did this man go home and take something? I wave my right hand and 10,000 believers appear, and Lee Chon-hang gives the order to kill them. His army hits my line like a pack of starving wolves, and inside a few breaths, all 10,000 of mine are dead. This is a real battlefield, which means the believers are summoned in their physical bodies. The arena runs hundreds of kilometers across and is completely stained red. Severed limbs and scattered organs cover the ground, and the smell of blood is thick enough to lean on. The other students stop their believers to watch. The chorus runs that Chonhang Hyun is so ruthless, killing them that fast, and that Yeon Biom cannot really be that weak. Lee Seong-taek says smugly that apart from Bing Nuna, nobody in the class is a match for Chonhang Hyun, and that he did not even activate Mad Blood. I tricked all of them badly during the midterm, so watching me harvest it is the most satisfying thing they have seen in weeks. Teacher Joe arrives with an ugly expression and asks what is going on. Lee Cho-hung reports that my believers are too weak, all mortals, with no learning value at all. Teacher Joe turns his head and asks what I have to say. I tell him bluntly that I cannot win anyway, so minimizing losses is better. He snorts, turns around, and asks Lee Chon-hang whether he is sick in the head, because we are in class and that talent belongs pointed at alien races. Lee Chon-hang holds his head up even with a god in front of him, says this kid treated him like a performing monkey, and swears revenge. Teacher Joe calls that stupid and tells him a mindset like his makes greatness difficult. Since he is so tough, he can skip university and come to the front lines as a soldier for a few years. I am genuinely surprised. This Teacher Joe may be targeting me, but there is nothing rotten in him, and he simply loathes alien races and teaches every student honestly. He tells us both to go back and reflect, says the battle was meaningless, and orders us to log out. I feel liberated and leave immediately. The helmet is barely off before a private message arrives. Lee Chon-hang informs me our business is not over, and that he will arrange for people to challenge me every day. At 10,000 a day, I do not have that much population to burn, and this is the price of daring to play him. I smile at it without any warmth. Anyone else would have been frightened, but I have the evolution talent, and 10,000 ordinary believers a day is an expense I can carry indefinitely. I will let him vent, but if he keeps going, I stop being polite. The following days go exactly as promised. It begins to look arranged, because the leftover student is always me, and always against one of the old friends from the 7-man squad. I go numb to it. My Divine Kingdom population passes 4 million, and between the living environment and the C-rank breeding card, the birth rate keeps climbing. On the 7th day, my opponent turns out to be Na Bing. She looks at my army of mortals, declines to kill them, and tells me in a bored voice to just surrender. There is such a thing as good news after all. I raise my hand, surrender, and leave happily, and Lee Chon-hang is left standing there with his face gone stiff. In all of Class 1, exactly one person can refuse to give Lee Chon-hang face, and she has just done it out of boredom. 5 more days pass, which is 50 years inside, and the believer population goes past 10 million. Under the dual blessing of Bongne Island and the Enlightenment Stone, the tiered believers climb past 1 million, and the first tier 4 being in my divine kingdom is born. The panel now lists Divine Lord Yang BM, 1 million square kilometers, F-rank resource talent, and SSS-rank evolution talent. Believers run to 1 tier 4 being, 310 tier 3 beings, and 6,252 tier 2 beings. Under them sit 1.01 million tier 1 beings and 9.72 million mortals. Retainers show 412 little spirits. Techniques are the 5 elements cultivation technique, the Vajra indestructible technique, the myriad spirits return to origin array at great mastery, and the black tortoise life extinguishing array. Faith points sit at 1.24 provided daily. The buildings read 2,000 moon wells and 2,000 sun springs, 5 monkey wine springs, the ancient spirit tree still gestating little spirits, and the enlightenment stone. After those come 1 sea of flesh and blood pool, 1 Baekryong blood pool soaking 10 Taese, and 3 automatic concentrators carrying 300 Tae. The list closes with the B-rank spirit weapon forge and its small mineral vein, 1 C-rank city of technology, and the 2 deployed wonders. Assets show 310 Taes, spiritual fruit in assorted varieties, and D-rank, E-rank, and F-rank weapons in quantities the panel does not itemize. Reading it through, I am satisfied. In a real Divine Kingdom war, with 10 million believers and the evolution talent behind them, nobody in Class 1 is my rival except Na Bing and Lee Chon-hang. In a 10,000-man simulation battle, riding the array at great mastery, I should sit inside the class top 10. Even if Lee Chon-hang picks a fight to the death, his 10,000 elites are going to bleed badly, and he has no tenfold evolution talent to refill them. It is time to show a little tooth, or these people will conclude I am something to step on. I put the helmet on, tap the coordinates, and drop into the Divine Kingdom simulation battlefield teacher Joe has opened. Everyone else has already paired off, and my opponent is waiting, and the sight of him surprises me. It is Na Myongyan, whose ranking in the Na family simulation battle sits somewhere in the 200 or 300s. Every previous class I sent nothing but ordinary mortals up, purely to hold losses down, and this man appears to have drawn a conclusion from that. On another arena, Lee Sung-taik is sparring with Lee Chon-hang, worried enough to ask whether that trash Na Myung-hyun will be alright. Lee Chon-hang says the man requested it himself. He tested his quality yesterday and found his strength not weak, and Na Myung-hyun promised everything he has, so even losing it will be a fierce fight. Lee Sung-taek says his parents have clearly poured another pile of resources into him. Lee Chon-hang adds that he cannot challenge again for a month, and that whoever wins, the consumption of believers will not be small. People fight for a breath of air, he says, and if they do not show that scoundrel some color, they cannot get through the year. On the arena, Na Myongyan summons 1 tier 4 being, 20 tier 3 beings, 360 tier 2 beings, 4,600 tier 1 beings and mortals behind them. The surprise around us is audible, because his strength has improved a little too quickly. The talk runs that this is finally worth watching, and that even with the array at great mastery, I am a notch behind. Somebody argues that is not certain, since I took the largest haul in the midterm and the school's 10 billion alone would buy a great deal of strength. Nobody watches believers closely during ordinary sparring, but everybody is watching now, because killing is more interesting. Na Myongyan floats above his army, with his arms crossed, and tells me he finally gets to fight me for real, and that I should not surrender. Then he corrects himself, saying even if I surrender, he will not stop, since this arena requires both sides to agree before it ends. I ask curiously whether he understands that fighting at full force will cost him badly. He gives me an ugly little smile and says it does not matter, because I have angered the public and everyone is united against a common enemy. So that is how it is. I summon my elite troops. 1 tier 4 being, 300 tier 3 beings, 6,000 tier 2 beings, and tier 1 beings filling out the rest. The arena goes quiet enough to hear the flags. Somebody says this man really hid his strength. Another notes they are all tiered and there is even a tier 4 believer, which puts my combat power in the class top 10. Lee Sung-taek curses at the sky, saying it has not even been a month since the midterm, that the exam was that dangerous, and I still concealed what I had. He stood at the front like a clown while I watched. That day there was not a single tier 3 being among my believers, and the scouts I sent out were mortals not even wearing clothes. Improving this far this fast is not something anyone will believe, so the only explanation available to them is concealment. Remembering how thoroughly he opened his heart to me back then, Lee Sung-taek looks ready to slap himself twice. Lee Chon-hang's face is no better, and he plainly wishes he could trade places with Na Myung-hyun. If he does not personally wipe out this villain's believers, his resolve will not settle for a month. Nam Yongyan lifts a finger, points it at me, and cannot squeeze a single word out. He has done the arithmetic. My believers now outmatches outright, and I hold the array on top of it, so even a fight to the death would barely scratch me. He raises his hand and admits defeat. I tell my army to kill. The two forces meet and the smell of blood is instant. My side is not merely stronger. After 100 or 200 internal years of forging at the Spirit Weapon Forge, my 10,000 troops carry full sets of D-rank weapons. Nam Yonghyun has D-rank gear only on his tier 3 believers, and F-rank on the rest, and with the array advantage it stops being a battle. Watching 10,000 elites cut down like standing grain, his face goes black as charcoal. I annihilate every believer he fielded at a cost of just over 800 tier 1 believers. He consoles himself out loud that 800 is at least not nothing, and if he knew mine had passed 1,000,000 he would cough blood. The restrictions lift and Teacher Joe walks over with a dark face. He remarks that Class 1 students really do have spirit, showing no mercy when killing their own countrymen. I tell him helplessly that when others strike hard I have to resist. He points out that it is me every single day and asks why nobody else's arena battles produce casualties like this. I tell him people hate me and I cannot help it, and he tells me that knowing I am hated makes striking this ruthlessly worse. So I turn and face the whole class, and let my voice go flat and cold. I say I have thought about it, and continuing like this solves nothing. From now on, whoever wants to fight me to the death should tell me in advance, and I will accompany him at full force. With strength behind it, this is the moment to set the terms, and nobody outside Na Bing and Li Chonhang is likely to have the appetite. I wave a hand and announce I am leaving early, since I have gotten used to leaving the instant a fight ends. Teacher Joe tells me to wait, and I turn back and ask whether there is anything else. He tells me the myriad spirits return to origin array is only F rank, with no obvious advantages and a limited ceiling. Since my comprehension is good, I should buy one defensive and one offensive array, neither above D rank. C rank arrays and higher need believers at the Chi refining or martial disciple realms stationed inside before they can be cast. I thank him, honestly flattered, because I did not expect the man to teach me anything. Teacher Joe ignores my thanks and rounds on Nam Yonghyun instead. He shouts that the boy's array is a mess, and the foundation of his believers just as unstable. That tier 4 being was forcibly inflated with some strength-enhancing pill, which looks frightening and does nothing. He asks whether there is anything at all between the boy's ears, then tells him to go home and reflect, because his talent is poor and his head is worse. Without the family he was born into, he would be nothing. Tears well up in Nam Yonghyun's eyes. I find this so refreshing that I cannot hold the laugh in, apologize, say goodbye and get out before the lecture turns my way. There is a reason every student in Class 1 respects Teacher Joe. His language is crude and he is brutally strict, but his teaching ethics are admirable, and he treats every student the same. A man like that would make a fine general on the front lines. In his villa, meanwhile, Nam Yonghyun smashes everything he can lift and swears he will not let me off. After that display of power, the sparring turns civilized, and most classmates now open by saying the match is primarily for practice. I agree gladly, since I have never had a hobby of slaughtering people. Another 10-odd days go by. The D-rank Black Tortoise Life Extinguishing Array remains far too profound for my believers. So I take Teacher Joe's advice, talk it through with Yang 1, and settle on 2 E-rank arrays instead. One is the Locking Heaven Array for containment and defense. The other is the Extinguishing God Array, built for strangulation and breaking formations. With a 10-fold evolution talent underneath me, there is no sense researching arrays myself. I drop both into the transmission tower and let my believers study on their own time, of which they have far more than I do. It has been just over a month since the midterm, and my divine kingdom has lived 3 full centuries. The believer population has stopped growing because it has hit the ceiling. The panel lists 100 Tier 4 beings, 3,310 Tier 3 beings, and 40,000 Tier 2 beings. Under them sit 4 million Tier 1 beings, 32 million mortals, and 1,718 little spirits. Techniques run the 5 elements cultivation technique, the Vajra indestructible technique, the Locking Heaven Array and Extinguishing God Array at E rank, and the Black Tortoise Life Extinguishing Array. Faith points read 1.12 billion with 360.4 provided daily. Nearly 40 million people is the limit of what a divine creature's divine kingdom can hold. With the explosion behind her, Yang 1 has 5 automatic concentrators running at full capacity on the ground. That is 500 Tai's and a billion faith points of Tai's meat coming off the line without pause. Because spiritual fruit is abundant and she wants healthier bodies, she has bought another 20 supersonic aircraft purely to haul it. Even the believers on the ground eat all the concentrated meat they want, and put 2 or 3 spiritual fruits beside every meal. On believers alone, I draw 360.4 faith points a day, 1/3 of the distance to demigod. There are still over 4 months to the college entrance examination, and against my evolution talent that is more than 1,000 years of development. I genuinely believe I can reach demigod before the exam. All of it traces back to the midterm harvest, since Bongne Island and Spirit Peach Mountain carried me further than any decision I made deliberately. My body keeps thickening too, and a few days ago at the gym I punched at 5 tons of force, so I would like to know where the number sits today. A beautiful day begins, and it begins with class. Today is another 2-player battle on the Divine Kingdom battlefield, and I have gotten comfortable arriving late, since somebody always finds me an opponent. The moment I appear outside the battlefield, Li Chonheng's tiger gaze locks onto me. I frown and ask whether he is allowed to challenge me already, and he says with an ugly expression that it is the 2nd month. He asks whether I am planning to send another 10,000 mortals up for him to kill. If I keep behaving this shamelessly, there is genuinely nothing he can do. He could crush me himself, but I will not fight him, and asking Li Songtaek and the others to force it is not something he can bring himself to do. With the strength I have shown, even Li Songtaek would lose a stack of high-tier believers doing it, and heavy losses this close to the exam would leave him unable to face his family. I tell him indifferently that as long as he gets to vent his anger, I am fine with it, because I was in the wrong during the midterm and still carry a little guilt. Li Cheon-hang flies into a rage instead. He shouts that he cannot vent his anger, that my behaving like this makes him angrier, and that he is thoroughly furious. I look at a man reacting like his tail was stepped on and cannot follow the logic at all. I am offering him 10,000 believers to kill, and he is refusing them. Teacher Joe rubs his forehead and tells us to get on the ring instead of shouting like children. He thinks highly of Li Cheo-hang because mad blood on a real battlefield is a major killing tool, but the boy's brain does not always engage. The two of us go up and Li Chonhang summons 11 tier 5 beings, 1,200 tier 4 beings, and tier 3 beings for everything else. That is a serious step up from a month ago. He tells me that if I am a man I should fight at full force, and that after today he can wipe the slate clean and we are strangers. Unless he makes me bleed a little, he cannot swallow this, and under school rules there is no answer to a man who refuses to be provoked. Once he has wiped out my high tier believers, he can call it an explanation to his brothers and to himself. My eyes light up and I ask whether he is certain. He says he is, so I tell him that after today's battle there will be no further dealings between us. I want it stated in advance that if he turns out to be the one who does not dare fight, he is not to come looking for trouble later. He sneers and tells me to cut the talk and fight him properly. I wave my hand and summon my strongest. 100 tier 4 beings, 3,000 tier 3 beings, and tier 2 beings filling the rest of the field. More than a level above what I fielded against Na Myongyan. What matters more is that weaker believers holding the array at great mastery can still take a real bite out of him in a fight to the death. With the evolution talent, I am not afraid of losing troops, since another month gives me a stronger army than this one. Li Cheo-hang has no such arrangement. So I smile at him with complete confidence and hand the difficult decision across the field. The two armies stand arrayed and the arena goes silent. Li Songtaek swallows and says Yang Biome is strong. Although he is no match for Chon-hang Young, a real fight to the death with those arrays will cost a great many high-tier believers, and worry moves through his eyes. Beside him, Na Bing's expression is grave as well. The college entrance examination is 4 months out. Is venting really worth this? Na Bing is just as surprised at how much I concealed, and at this level she judges I could reach the top 5 of the Na family on the simulation battle rankings. She messages her father that Yang Biome's character is lacking but his strength is genuinely formidable. Li Cheon-hang, as expected, does not strike immediately this time. He hesitates, and there is no way he could not hesitate, because the college entrance examination shapes the rest of his development. I smile and offer him the exit, suggesting we forget the whole thing and simply have a friendly spar. Looking at that gentle smile, he remembers what I said to him inside the alien divine kingdom, and the way the two of us stood there like brothers. He curses me at the top of his lungs, screams that he will kill me, activates mad blood, and orders his believers to kill everything on my side. His army's momentum surges 30%, and his believers come forward like savage wolves, picking out which man to eat first. This lunatic is actually doing it. I was only unafraid because of the evolution talent, and this Li Chon-hang is a hot-blooded youth who considers no consequences once his brain snaps. Bitterness rises in me, because I never wanted a real fight, and if all these believers die, my heart will ache for a week. The whole point was to make him back down, show enough strength to be left alone, and turn hostility into something survivable. Instead, the grudge just got deeper. My believers have their formation set, and the soldiers at the front have all trained the Vajra indestructible technique and carry shields as tall as a man. A flash of blade light sweeps across them, and several tier 2 creatures on the martial path are cut in half at the waist. Shields and armor and bodies split through. Li Cheo-hang leads from the front with 3 tier 5 believers and advances like a blade-splitting bamboo. The array is at great mastery though, so every position that opens is filled before the gap can spread. Under the cover of the Grand Array, one of my men uses the light body art and appears like a ghost beside the enemy who has just swung. A long blade comes across and takes that Tier 5 believer's arm off at the shoulder. This is only the opening exchange, and if it continues, the ending is mutual destruction. Teacher Joe appears outside our arena, shouts at everyone to stop, and asks Lee Chun-hang whether he has gone mad. Once a Divine Kingdom battlefield opens, it cannot end unless both parties agree or one side's believers are all dead. Not even a god teaching a classroom can interfere with the rules of the virtual world. Both of us are seed players the school is counting on at the college entrance examination, and with high-tier troops burning off, the board would have his job if it found out. He misjudged my strength and Lee Chun-hang's temper even more badly. Hearing the question, Lee Chun-hang stops almost before he decides to, and I hold my believers back from counterattacking. Teacher Joe lets out a breath and tells us class is nearly over, and that from now on, we are forbidden to be matched against each other. Lee Chun-hang refuses flatly. Teacher Joe rubs his temples and asks whether 4 months before the exam is when he wants to gamble the rest of his life on one impulse. These children from great families have vision and resources and talent, but they grew up cushioned, and once they fix on something, they go past reason. Lee Chun-hang does not answer, and his eyes stay on me, full of resentment. Do not go crazy. Please do not go crazy. I will take a detour every time I see you for the rest of my life. The shameless fear the brazen, and the brazen fear the reckless, and here the shameless has walked directly into the reckless, which doubles the fear rather than canceling it. All I want is to develop my divine kingdom in peace, and risking my neck for no return is not a line of work I applied for. Teacher Joe goes cold and says that is enough. If Lee Chun-hang insists, he will apply for a call with the boy's father right now and let the two of them talk it through. Lee Chun-hang's eyes settle, and he says, unwillingly, that he agrees to end the match. I agree immediately, before he can change his mind. The restrictions lift, I recall my believers, and I am out of the virtual world inside a second. Back in my villa in Yang City, I pat my chest like a man who has survived something, because 10,000 elites dying there would have set my development back badly. Inside the virtual world, Lee Sung-taik has finished his own match and comes over. He tells Lee Chun-hang that he nearly died of fright, and that with that many high-tier believers dead, he would have been punished alongside him back at the family. Lee Chun-hang spits that seeing my smug face made it impossible to hold himself back. Lee Sung-taik consoles him, saying the best way to handle scum with low moral character is to stay away, because dealing with people like that always costs them more. My reputation is ruined already, and presumably nobody will want to cooperate with me. Choosing to fight alone, he concludes, will leave me behind soon enough. If Chun-hang still feels unhappy, he can wait till they break through into gods and then make me apologize and pay compensation. Another adds that Yang Biom is only a genius with an outside surname inside the Na family, who used petty tricks to get ahead for a moment. Without family support, he says, I fall behind the instant I reach the demigod stage. Somebody else says I am a barefoot man who does not fear those wearing shoes, and that direct descendants of the Li family need not grapple with a peasant. The rest of the Li family geniuses gather around and agree with each other. Watching from a distance, Teacher Joe shakes his head, opens a chat box and edits a message. He tells Lee Chun-hang's father that his son's temperament is still far too poor, and he attaches the day's Divine Kingdom battlefield footage. The next day I tap the coordinates and my consciousness does not land on a battlefield at all. I am in the classroom. Seeing everyone assembled, Teacher Joe announces that the arena battles exist to build our combat capability. The format only fields 10,000 troops, but every large-scale believer battle in our futures builds on that foundation. It is also the first examination of the college entrance examination worth 100 academic points. Anyone who pushes his ranking on the simulation battle rankings into the county top 10,000 before the exam is exempted and receives full marks. If we have questions about formations or combat techniques, we can send him a private message. The class answers yes in one voice. Then he calls on Na Bing as class monitor and asks what the primary work of a war school divine kingdom is. After university and society, she stands and answers that it is to throw ourselves onto the front lines and fight alien gods, so the flame of the human race is never extinguished. Teacher Joe shakes his head with a smile and tells her, that is what the books say. Today, he says, that material exists to pump up children. Surprise moves through the room in a wave, because nobody expected a soldier to say something so short on positive energy. He explains that developing a divine kingdom requires a massive influx of external resources, and the best way to obtain them is war. Fighting alien gods, put nicely, means protecting the weak and safeguarding the flame of the human race. Put bluntly, it means becoming stronger and plundering resources. And everything is for oneself. A student stammers that hearing it that way makes the gods on the front lines seem far less noble. Teacher Joe laughs and answers that a gentleman is judged by his deeds and not his intentions. Judged by intention, it is not noble, but judged by deeds, Without those gods, none of us would live this comfortably. Then he tells the room there is exactly one thing capable of making everybody strive in the same direction, and that thing is profit. Everyone works to develop his own divine kingdom, which is why people risk the front lines, and the process itself protects the continuation of human civilization. He asks whether we think the alien races are truly evil by nature, and answers that they are exactly the same as us. Heaven and earth are ruthless and treat all things as straw dogs, so anyone who wants to control his own fate can only keep making himself stronger. Obtain resources through war to grow strong, then launch larger wars once strong, in a cycle that never closes. And to be precise, it is an instinct written into the genes of every living thing. This is part of the truth of the world, and since we have all chosen the War Divine Kingdom path, we are qualified to hear it. The room listens the way no class has listened all year. Other classes never cover this, because those students walk the logistics path, the capillaries of the human race, and most will end up ordinary divine creatures at the poor end of humanity. Do not touch the cake of the rich, Teacher Joe says, and do not touch the thinking of the poor, and when we climb higher we will understand that rule on our own. Then he asks Li Chonhang what the 3 things are that matter most when invading an alien divine kingdom. Li Chonhang stands and says you use overwhelming strength to slaughter every follower of the opposing god. Teacher Joe asks what comes after that, and Li Chonhang wants to know what else there could be. His face darkens and he tells the boy to sit down. Slaughtering the followers and breaching the divine kingdom core, he says, is only the first step. The second step is learning to protect yourself, because the moment you choose to invade, your own coordinates are exposed to the other side. Defending your own core is an entire discipline. The third step is digesting the harvest, since a god's kingdom is enormous, hundreds of millions of square kilometers at minimum. Knowing how to collect resources and dismantle defensive structures is a field of study in itself. We are hunters, he tells us, and once the prey is killed, we eat it clean, bone and flesh and skin and hair. And that is what sustenance means. The college entrance examination splits into the warpath and the logistics path. Our warpath, following exactly what he described, divides into 3 examinations. An assessment of follower strength, shaped as a simulated battle against a god, worth 100 academic points. How to enter an alien divine kingdom and collect resources, worth another 100. How to prevent an invasion by alien gods and fight a defensive war inside your own divine kingdom, worth another 100. The specific methods shift year to year, but the core objective is always those 3 abilities. At that, he snaps his fingers, and the blackboard behind him becomes a pale blue electronic board. It reads as the class of 2026 Yang County First High School Divine Kingdom Resource Collection Leaderboard, and every name carries the same score. Na Bing at 0 points. Li Cheonhang at 0 points. Every one of us at 0, all the way down. Then Teacher Joe says he will disclose a set of coordinates to Class 1, belonging to a first-order god of an alien race. The classroom erupts. An alien god, somebody repeats. Others demand to know why a god's coordinates are being handed to students, and whether he intends to send us inside. Most of Class 1 is openly rattled, because the shadow of the midterm has not faded. Even Na Bing and Li Chonhang look grim, since confidence is not the same thing as stupidity. An alien god could wipe out this room by sending one high-ranking follower. Teacher Joe tells everyone to be quiet. The core of this divine kingdom has been destroyed, and the god is already dead, and the school does not joke with our safety. He cannot help glancing at me, because by the school's own accounting, the heavy casualties that day trace back to me, and a number of families pulled their investments afterward. Hearing the god is dead, most of the room exhales. The core power of a divine kingdom is its followers, and when the god dies, every follower disintegrates at once. So it is a resource point, and fanaticism arrives in my classmates' eyes almost immediately. Teacher Joe, reading the room, adds that the core assets have already been collected by the school, so nobody should dream about bargains. Assets at that level would be wasted inside the divine kingdoms of little creatures like us anyway. He assures us there is still plenty left, because it is a true god's kingdom, meaning spirit plants, monster beasts, and buildings of every description. Whatever we can find belongs to us, and the value of everything recovered goes onto that leaderboard as points. The competition runs until the day before the college entrance examination. 4 months outside and 120 years of collection time inside a divine kingdom. From this point, it is our main learning task. His advice is that a god's divine kingdom is vast beyond anything we know, and that with our populations, none of us can explore it fully. We should cooperate in teams and push into the depths where the valuable buildings sit. First place receives strategic supplies invested by the school, and he tells us to work hard. I am doing my own arithmetic while he talks, because his 120 years is my 10-200, and I am the only person in the room whose calendar reads that way. Then he tells us there is no need to come here for class anymore, that he will notify us if he needs us. And with that, Teacher Joe walks straight out of the virtual world. The coordinates drop into every third-year Class 1 inbox at once, and the temperature of the room changes. A divine kingdom with no God left in it threatens nobody, so the worst out there is a harsh climate chewing on careless believers. Half the class pushes their consciousness through before the lecture ends and comes back with the life aura still on their faces. 4 months of open harvesting inside a dead god's world is a serious gift from a school generous with the students it cultivates, and everybody here knows it. So the trading starts. Someone asks Lee Hyun for a slot, someone begs Bing Nuna for a place on a roster, someone proposes to Cheo Young that a few of them pull together and split the yield. Nobody leaves the virtual world, because the teacher said exploring together is the better play. The deeper a team pushes, the richer the harvest, and a split of a deep haul beats a whole shallow one. Within a quarter of an hour, the class folds into 2 blocks, one behind Na Bing and one behind Lee Cheonheng, since only first place collects the school's reward. Both families have stacked geniuses in this class, and the two sides look evenly matched. Around the edges, clusters of 4 and 5 form out of everyone who cannot measure up, huddling together to fish the shallows. And then there is me, alone in the back row, watching the room negotiate itself into shape. Nobody dares partner with the person who did what I did at the midterm, and even as a Tier 2 genius carrying Na family investment, I get no invitation from Na Bing. I drop out rather than collect looks. Back in the villa, I ask Yang Won whether she has anything worth hearing. She tells me the world shows no signs of mining and that its resource volume cannot be estimated, then lays out 3 roads. The first is to offer Na Bing a contract, which she rates at 50%, at 10 times the efficiency of working alone. The second is to explore alone, where 120 years only gropes at the rim and yields 10 billion faith points at best. The third is an exploration-type high-order intelligent life, which lifts efficiency tenfold and makes the window long enough to recover the price. I open them all before she finishes. The listing runs 10 billion faith points for a special life form nurtured by the will of the deity, built for outward exploration and resource acquisition, with high autonomous action and extremely strong environmental adaptability. Its core competence is information analysis, so it builds cognitive models fast in strange territory and reads terrain structure, energy distribution, and civilizational form. Off those, it formulates optimal exploration plans, identifies defense systems, and locates weak nodes for efficient intrusion. It carries a complete knowledge base and learns dynamically. The merchant note recommends granting it secondary command authority to dispatch believer units itself, running gathering, construction, transportation, and combat as one loop. The evaluation calls it the core unit for outward expansion. I ask what class it is, and Yang Won tells me flatly that it is 4th class, the same as her. Then I ask why it costs so much more than she did. She explains that the scope differs, that she is oriented toward development and amounts to a weak actuary. The exploration type gathers resources and can also command simple combat missions. In raw computing power, she rates herself its equal, but the market wants that one more. There is something wonderfully bloodless about an accountant telling you she is worth less than the competition and feeling nothing about it. Waiting 2 months is the obvious answer, and the one I hate, because this is an alien first-order God's world, and 2 months burns 60 years of exploration. Then Yang Won suggests, in the same even register, that I could apply for a mortgage loan. She points out that I hold 3 strategic resources, the Enlightenment Stone, Spirit Peach Mountain, and Bonney Island, and that plenty of lenders would be delighted to talk. Her proposal is to collateralize the Enlightenment Stone, which by itself closes the gap, and she asks for mortgage permission. I grant it. Under 2 minutes later, she has negotiated with 103 lending companies and screened the field down to 2. Gyeongso Finance will take the Enlightenment Stone against 30 billion faith points at 20% a month. Elephant Loan will take the same stone against 100 billion at 10%. I sit there like a man handed the wrong receipt and ask how she closed talks with 100 firms that fast. She tells me the major houses all run high-order intelligent life on their transaction desks, where throughput is roughly 100 million times a human negotiation. Then I look again and frown, because those rates are savage by any standard I recognize. She reports that mortgage loans of this kind are short-term borrowings by design, and that particle loan and unseen loan quoted 50% a month. When I ask why the 2 survivors differ so wildly, her answer is the most interesting thing she says all day. Gyeongso Finance's 20% sits inside the normal band. Elephant Loan handed over that quota, presumably hoping I fail to repay, at which point they confiscate a strategic resource for pennies. 30 billion is more than sufficient, she says, so she recommends Gyeongso Finance. I shake my head and tell her to contact Elephant Loan, sign, and mortgage the stone for the full 100 billion. With the evolution talent under me, 10% a month is a rounding error. If they had offered 200 billion, I would have swallowed that too. Which brings me to the thing I keep turning over, because Yang Won holds secondary authority, talks to the outside world for me, and has handled more of my business than I have. She still cannot perceive that my divine kingdom runs at 10 times everyone else's speed. She should have caught it in the first week. Instead, she behaves as though the SSS-Rank evolution talent never existed. And since she is bound to my divine source and cannot betray me, I am not worried, only curious. Some other layer of rules sits on top of her. That an SSS-Rank talent hides itself from a mind like hers without leaving a seam is its own quiet flex. The contract closes while I think about it. 100 billion lands, interest accrues daily. Party B may repay at any time, and 2 consecutive missed months mean the collateral is confiscated. My faith points read 101.5 billion. I do not hesitate, and the exploration unit goes into the cart. As it loads, a green sphere of light asks for appearance, gender, personality, and name. I tell it to randomize everything and name it Yang 2. The light unfolds into a boy no older than 7 or 8, and he bows and greets me as his master, painfully shy about it. I never thought through what randomize everything might produce, and now I own a child. It does not matter because whatever face the dice gave him, his capabilities are not in doubt. I hand him secondary authority in the target coordinates. As my intelligent life, he can enter the world the school made public, and his report arrives before the transfer finishes. He confirms a first-order God divine kingdom, rich in life aura, thick with spirit plants, undamaged, of extremely high exploration value. The window is 120 years, and he requests 5,000 Tier 2 beings, 500,000 Tier 1 beings, and 3 million mortals. He also wants drones, spectrum detectors, and portable simple warehouses, plus 2 billion in operating funds. Request approved. Then I tell Yang 1 to hold a portion back as reserve, and put the rest into 40 monkey wine springs. She pushes back at once, saying the exposure is too risky and the Enlightenment Stone carries more value long term. She has no human feeling in her, so it lands as a conclusion I am free to ignore. I tell her I have my own methods and hand down the standing order. From this month forward, apart from 10 billion set aside for interest, every unit of income goes into monkey wine springs until I own 100. Because she cannot perceive the evolution talent, every projection she builds runs 1/10 of the truth, so the correcting order comes out of my mouth and I never explain why. 100 monkey wine springs will occupy more than half of Spirit Peach Mountain's capacity, putting my income alone at 100 billion a month. If I had known a mortgage was available, I would have done this ages ago. Under the evolution talent, even a low-yield building like a moon well throws off 10% a month, so borrowed money is nearly free in my hands. Once I am a demigod and something genuinely large appears, I can borrow against what I hold and expand faster than anyone can follow. Back in reality, my perception finds Yang 2 already standing on the outskirts as a consciousness entity. He produces dozens of miniature drone detectors which turn into threads of light and vanish into the forest and hills. Data floods back at once. Terrain structure and energy fluctuation and life density, every stream assembling into a complete model in his head. He murmurs that the outer region has sparse resources with localized high-energy reaction points, then raises a hand and several million believers arrive in one breath. He locks the spirit plants first and orders Team 1 to harvest and store in Warehouse 1. The god of this place is dead, but the ecosystem never died with him, and under that much greenery there are plenty of wild beasts. Yang 2 sees them coming from kilometers out, and dispatches squads before they close, holding losses to almost nothing. Then he reports the outer perimeter cleared, risks under control, and the conditions for pushing further met. Watching from the real world, it looks less like exploration than a standardized industrial process with a 7-year-old running the console, and his efficiency makes mine look like a hobby. Only now do I understand what Teacher Joe meant about not wasting anything. Yang 2 collects everything sellable, low-grade spirit plants, the carcasses of ranked monsters, even the spiritual soil. It is less an expedition than a bandit crew going through a village and checking the toilets on the way out. Because the god here is dead, the Federation's intelligent life blankets the world and logs every hall live. My name keeps ticking up the board. 20,000 points, 50,000, 120,000. With Yang 2 out there, nothing is left for me to do, so I put my arms around Na Yu and sleep. Technology has come far enough that people ought to enjoy it. If there is work, let the machines do it, and if not, sleep properly and spend the hours with family. Yang 2's hauls come home in batches through the portable warehouses. Yang 1 runs the other side of the ledger, using breeding cards to grow the population and feeding reinforcements forward. Whatever returns gets listed in the marketplace in tranches, and the proceeds convert into monkey wine springs. A god with 2 intelligent life units has nothing to do, so I inspect both operations daily, hold my wife at night, and slip off to the heavenly fragrance world by day. A month goes past in a blur. The exploration is still at the outermost stage, so even at Yang 2's efficiency, 30 years inside has produced only 2 billion worth of resources. I am satisfied anyway because my score runs far out in front. The board reads me at 2.142 billion, Na Bing at 896 million, Lee Qianhang at 799 million, Lee Suho far down at 22 million. I am not stupid enough to think first place is mine. I am doubling everyone only because the outer belt has low density and low unit value. Exactly the terrain Yang 2 eats for breakfast. In the depths, one random building might be worth hundreds of millions, and the ranking gets settled by raw strength. Still, I am privately delighted because these people look down on me, and now I am standing on their heads. My own world is coming along beautifully too. Apart from 15 billion held back as insurance, Yang 1 has poured every remaining faith point into Monkey Wine Springs, and the count stands at 63. Under the tenfold evolution talent that alone hands me 63 billion a month, and another month reaches the target of 100. 100 billion a month makes me want to walk into that classroom and ask the people who sneered at me whether anybody else would like a turn. Low profile. Keep a low profile. I sit in the villa eating spirit fruit and say nothing to anybody. Elsewhere, Lee Cheon-hang's team is directing a slaughter of 3,000 low-grade demonic beasts when he opens the leaderboard, and his eyelid starts jumping. He cannot work out how a group exploring day and night without stopping has been left this far behind by one person. He says through his teeth that he cannot understand how that snake managed it. Lee Songtai cannot make it add up either, because a 10-man team drives deeper than any lone wolf, even splitting the yield. By any reasonable reading, I should still be scratching the rim. Lee Song-taik offers his only theory. That rumor puts me as a top student out of class 7, with some real insight into resource gathering. Lee Chon-hang, equally lost, asks whether there is a trick to gathering resources at all. A small gap could be luck or technique, but this one is wide enough that a stranger would assume I was harvesting the core. Lee Sung-taik says a boy called Lee Su-ho used to be my classmate and offers to have someone ask around. Lee Cheon-hang refuses flatly, since the decision gets made in the depths and he will take first on his own strength. Lee Sung-taik sighs at how stubborn his hyung is, then quietly makes the arrangements anyway. He dislikes me plenty, but nobody turns their back on faith points. In the villa, Na Yu takes my hand and asks whether her husband will come shopping today. The first department store has new arrivals, woven in a Tier 2 cultivation divine kingdom, and engraved with dust-repelling arrays. My smile comes out crooked. I went with her once, on a day I was bored, and it was pure torment. She tried on 30 things in one shop while I went from standing to sitting to lying across the bench like a casualty. We are not short of money, so we could buy the highest-end garment on the network and have it materialize here in minutes. How the physical shops stay in business is a mystery I leave unsolved. I am still assembling an excuse when my watch chimes and rescues me. I tell her a good friend has something important to discuss, and that we will absolutely go next time. Then I hold up Lee Suho's invitation as evidence and put my helmet on, like a man escaping a fire. In the private room at the Heavenly Fragrance World, I message ahead before my guests can start on business, and call my old friend Yu Yoyan over. She arrives asking why she has not seen Yang Hyung in so long. I open my arms and she settles onto my lap in one clean motion. Lee Suho stares and says I look extremely practiced at this. I tell him that if you do a thing enough times you get used to it, and that practice makes perfect, with no shame whatsoever. He coughs and steers back to shore, noting my points are locked in first and that he assumed I was buried in exploration. I tell him, straight-faced, that exploring drains a man, and one must decompress occasionally, since permanent high pressure reduces gathering efficiency. Complete nonsense, delivered like a lecture, and he nods along. For weeks, Lee Suho has behaved like a mouse spotting a cat every time he sees me, without one private message to explain himself. A sudden invitation after that silence means somebody put him up to it, so I hand him nothing true. He rubs his hands together, embarrassed, and asks for any tips to guide a brother. Small matter, I tell him, and offer to recommend a few books. I give him 3 titles: The Guide to Resource Gathering in the Divine Kingdom, On the Dynamic Distribution of Spirit Plants, and Appreciation of the Alien Divine Kingdom Compendium. He frowns and points out that those are compulsory textbooks for the 5th grade of elementary school. That is right, I say. He asks whether they can possibly be useful. That, I explain, is where his understanding fails, because every theorem derives from an axiom and all knowledge evolves out of basic content. Master those 3 books and he will grasp the fundamental principles behind everything. I tell him that inside the alien divine kingdom, I find spirit plant gardens and clusters of demonic beasts easily by applying what those pages taught me. One only regrets having read too little at the moment. One needs it. Only now do I see how much slipped past me. So I explore by day and study elementary textbooks by night, and carving out time to see him was not easy. Then I take a sip of red wine and let my eyes go thoughtful and deep. He asks whether I am serious, and I tell him it is truer than solid gold. He asks whether I am messing with him. I ask how he could think that, because with my character I would never scam my own brother, and I remind him to settle the bill on his way out. Then I take Yu Yoyon's hand and leave while he is still sitting there. Behind me, Lee Suho falls into a genuine crisis of self-belief. He forwards the recording to Lee Song-taek and drops it into the group chat, and the group does what groups do. Somebody notes with disgust that a dog like Yang Baeom is talking about his character. Another asks whether he has not scammed enough brothers already, and reminds Lee Song-taek that he was told not to send anyone. Lee Song-taek replies only to ask his Hyung how he watched a quarter-hour video that fast. In the other room, just as I get to the point of the evening, my wrist buzzes again, and I spend a genuinely conflicted second deciding. Then I tell Yoyeon Nuna something has come up, transfer 10,000 as a tip, and promise to see her when there is time. I get dressed, tap the coordinates, and leave the heavenly fragrance world behind. I greet Bing Nuna politely and ask what she wants, because although I scammed her once, she has far more class than Lee Chonhang, and has taken no revenge. She goes straight at it and asks why my resource gathering is so fast. I get one syllable out before she tells me that if it is inconvenient, then never mind, says goodbye, and vanishes. I am left with my mouth half open. She interrupts my evening, asks one question and evaporates, and I never even said I would refuse. Na Bing goes straight from there to a conference room. One of her people reports a video leaked out of the boys group and says that since Lee Suho already extracted my secret, there is no need to ask that scumbag anything. She nods and tells them to project it. A dozen Na family geniuses sit up straight and watch the whole conversation with grave faces, terrified of missing a detail. A quarter of an hour later, the recording ends and the room is abnormally quiet. Then one of them ventures that his little sister is in the 5th grade and asks whether he should borrow her books. The sentence seems to make a certain amount of sense. It also feels exactly like nonsense literature. In the administrative office, Teacher Joe stands over Dean Yang Monri with a stack of documents. He insists that with the exam this close, the school cannot skimp on rental fees for the virtual world venues, and that the dean must sign now. The dean signs while complaining that money is needed everywhere, investment has fallen off, and old Joe cannot keep spending the way he used to. Teacher Joe pats his own chest and promises this batch is strong and federal funding after the exam will be substantial. The dean says he trusts his teaching and that the buildings the school promised will not be delayed. Then the dean asks how 3rd year Class 1 is doing on its collection training. Teacher Joe admits he has not been watching, says they should still be on the periphery, and pulls up the leaderboard. The two of them stare at it for 3 full seconds without moving. The dean asks how my score is that far ahead and whether I have gone straight to the inner circle. He wants to know how that is possible when the world is 30 years old and nobody holds believers above the chi refining stage. Teacher Joe shakes his head, so the dean tells him to apply for real-time footage from the intelligent life. They watch my believers work the alien divine kingdom, and their expressions get more interesting by the second. Teacher Joe's face twitches and his breathing goes heavy. Cutting corners and playing tricks again, he says, because the boy has gone and bought a high-grade exploration intelligent life. The dean laughs and calls me genuinely entertaining, then remembers the school handed me 10 billion after the midterm, and asks whether I dumped the whole reward into one purchase. The main customers at that grade are true gods because only after godhood does a divine kingdom need one on staff. A divine creature putting a high-grade unit in charge of his world and his hauling is, by any conventional reading, a spectacular waste. 10 billion faith points buys enough high-level buildings to multiply a world's ecology several times over. The dean says so while looking shaken, then guesses I am trying to earn the 10 billion back. Teacher Joe is less charitable. He calls me a fool, says the core of development lies in the strength of the believers themselves, and points out that flawless basic labor without real power never reaches the inner circle. Utterly ignorant, he says, angry enough to laugh and half ready to call and shout me awake. The dean waves it off. Since the purchase is made, the exam does not forbid intelligent life, and my second score might improve. He sighs, having privately concluded that the principal misjudged the boy, and that handing Balne Island to a student like this was a waste. I have no idea any of them are watching me. At this moment, I am flat on the bed with my body locked rigid and my face twisted. A Tier 5 being has just been born inside my divine kingdom, and the feedback is strengthening me again. The power moves out from my bone marrow into my bones, then flesh and blood, then fascia, then the skin. I hear myself make a low sound I did not authorize. This is the first time the divine kingdom has hit back this hard, and a full quarter of an hour passes before it fades. I get up slowly and find a film of black grime across my skin, which means my body has been through a marrow cleansing on the Divine Kingdom's account. I shower, sit back down, and dive. The panel lists me as Divine Lord over 1 million square kilometers on the F-rank resource talent, with the SSS-Rank evolution talent still hidden underneath. My believers number 1 Tier 5 being, 1,030 Tier 4 beings, and 23,310 Tier 3 beings. Below them sit 490,000 Tier 2 beings, 14.2 million Tier 1 beings, and 22 million mortals. Retainers come to 4,718 little spirits. The technique list runs the 5 elements cultivation technique and the Vajra indestructible technique, then the locking heaven array and the extinguishing god array, both E-rank novice. After those sit the myriad spirits return to origin array at great mastery in the black tortoise life extinguishing array. Faith points stand at 15.5 billion, with a daily provision of 553.1. The building column is where it gets absurd. 5,000 moon wells and 5,000 sun springs, 64 B-rank monkey wine springs, and the ancient spirit tree at 1,000 years, incubating little spirits. Then the enlightenment stone, 1 B-rank sea of flesh and blood pool, and 1 B-rank Baekryong blood pool soaking 10 tazi at full load. Then 6 automatic concentrators whose cutting floor holds 600 taes at full load, a B-rank fresh food warehouse, and a B-rank spirit weapon forge with a small ore vein inside. 5 C-rank transmission towers and 1 C-rank city of technology close it. Under wonders sit Bongne Island and Spirit Peach Mountain, and under assets 610 Thais, the small ore veins, spirit fruit, and weapons down to F-rank. Through this stretch, Yang 1 has run the income into monkey wine springs and moon wells. Every idle faith point after that went into marrow-cleansing pills, ground to powder and fed to newborn infants. Between that and Bongne Island and the 2 blood pools, my believer's aptitude climbs at a rate you can see year on year. To select for the better genes, she has issued a standing rule. Any believer who has not reached Tier 1 by 20 must go out on a long reclamation journey, which in plain language means working under Yang 2. The deeper they go, the more they bring back, and the sharper the risk curve turns. 5 years ago in Divine Kingdom time, Yang 2 reported a pack of 50,000 wolves, 20,000 of them ranked demonic wolves. He mobilized reinforcements at once and 60,000 ordinary believers still died. Under the evolution talent, that loss is a line item. Low aptitude mortals are replaced faster than I can read the casualty report, and against a population breeding at 10 times the normal rate, I value the resources more than the bodies. With my strength climbing like this, I want the reward at the end of this event. I am exploring alone, yes, but my troop replenishment runs 10 times faster than anybody else's. In the whole 3rd year, I care about 2 people, and strong as Na Bing and Li Cheonhang are, in a real fight they amount to 2 or 3 of me. I am equivalent to 10 of me, and every point I take is mine alone with nothing to split. Better still, 3 months remain, which gives my divine kingdom another 900 years to develop. 900 years with that supply behind it, and I do not know what level I come out at. Strategic resources are the rarest thing there is, and a wonder like Bongne Island cannot be bought in the mall at any price. So an opportunity this close is not one I will let pass. The board reads me at 6.424 billion, Na Bing at 5.9 billion, and Li Cheonhang at 5.5 billion. I am still first, the gap is closing, and it is only a matter of time before both go past me. None of that surprises me. On my instructions, Young 1 has pushed resources into developing the Divine Kingdom itself, and the support flowing to Young 2 has mostly been untalented mortals used as expendable material. Powerful as his exploration is, progress stalls when the believers holding the line are weak, and only once they are strong enough do I earn the depths. Doing this with no team, I am satisfied with what the outskirts have paid me. I take my consciousness in, and both of them appear at once, greeting me as their master in the same breath. I tell Yang 2 I am allocating him another 10,000 Tier 3 beings and 200,000 Tier 2 beings, and that he should stop sweeping for resources and drive for the core. He reminds me that his army faces somewhere between 30 and 50,000 Tier 1 demonic beasts. Pressing forward will cost more than he can afford, and the current population cannot replenish him. The whole push, he says, will be counterproductive. I tell him to do as I say. Whatever rule sits on top of them has not budged, even through changes this large, and neither has noticed a thing about the time flow, so the initiative has to be mine every single time. The window is finite, and if I let them keep grazing the rim I will genuinely lose first place. Then I ask Yang 1 something I have been circling for a while. Based on current development speed, within 300 years of Divine Kingdom time, what is the most likely range for my number of high-tier believers? It is the only way I can estimate my own future, since she cannot comprehend the evolution talent, and I do the multiplication privately. She narrates her own working, which is faintly comic. Assuming the environment and the resource investment both hold, big data simulation calculates the believer aptitude change curve. The acceleration of that curve decreases year by year under the large model, and she designs a random variable for the rest. Over 300 years, Tier 5 believers land between 5 and 20, Tier 4 between 10 and 40,000, Tier 3 between 300 and 600,000. I issue no further orders. I pull back to reality and do the tenfold math in my head. Once the monkey wine springs hit 100, everything goes into the believers, and there is still enough time. On the eve of the exam, every other student in the Federation is sprinting to pour resources into their believers before the bell. I am not in that race, because my world develops at 10 times their pace and absorption windows never worry me. 5 days later, Na Bing and Li Qianheng both push past me. Over 20 days, each has cleared 20 billion points, and my name has slid out of the top 10. Li Songtaig tells his Hyung with shame all over his face that he was right, that I had good luck early, and that gathering intelligence on me was stupid. Li Qianheng tells him not to blame himself, since he did it for the team, and that their real opponent has always been Na Bing. He says he is determined to take first, and the room answers with a chant about beating the Na family. Li Qianheng's group is built entirely from direct Li family descendants, and for them the resources come second to putting him first. Against the strategic-grade buildings the school offers as the prize, ordinary materials hardly matter. Li Shangtaik points out that the school's intelligent life monitors everything, that resources only score when your own believers collect them, so they must go deeper. Li Chonheng agrees, since although the school stripped the core buildings out, high-value ones may still sit there. They must reach the core before Na Bing, so the priority is marching, and nobody stops for spirit plants worth under 100,000. Another month goes by, and the foot of Spirit Peach Mountain disappears under Monkey Wine Springs. Under Yangwon's layout, a resource house stands every kilometer across the mountain. Semi-automated harvesters fill the forest and slopes, and the believers only patrol, checking whether the machines bruise the spirit plants and doing a second pass on the fruit they miss. Fully automated conveyor belts run between the resource houses and the Monkey Wine Springs, so the fruit deposits itself untouched. 80% of the labor in the chain now belongs to machinery. On this day, the count reaches 100. I bring my consciousness in to watch them running at capacity, and I cannot keep my mouth straight. 100 billion a month, and now it is time to grow believers instead of assets. The population reads 10 Tier 5 beings, 23,034 Tier 4 beings, and 420,000 Tier 3 beings. Under those sit 5.4 million Tier 2 beings, 18.2 million Tier 1 beings, and 26.7 million mortals. Feeling that structure under me, my confidence rises another notch, because in a simulation battle now I would not come out behind Na Bing. Yangwon reports the core investment buildings fully deployed, the Divine Kingdom holding 12.3 billion faith points and 10 billion owed on this month's elephant loan interest. She asks whether output should now repay principal. I tell her no, that apart from reserving the interest, every unit of income goes into the believers themselves. There are under 2 months to the exam and I need their strength moving fast. This time I'm aiming at the Federation's 2 top universities, Taichou Academy and Songgung Academy. She answers with a request for purchase authority on a B-rank technique, the Everlasting Spring technique. At 100 million faith points, buying a technique confuses me, since the transmission towers already hold a decent library. She explains that the 10 Tier 5 beings all walk the cultivation path. The step above Tier 5 is the transition from mortal to the Tao, which produces believers in the Qi refining realm. That transition needs a high-level technique, and she rates the Everlasting Spring technique the best fit. The martial arts path peaks at Tier 3, so she is not investing in high-level material there yet. That makes sense, so I ask how long until my Divine Kingdom produces its first Qi refining realm believer. Her answer is that the Tier 5 count is extremely low, the aptitude mediocre to poor, the environment average. My overall evaluation does not meet the standard, so the conditions for the calculation are not satisfied, and no estimate is possible. I ask her, incredulous, how my evaluation can fail after this long. She nods and confirms it, adding that my development level sits in the median range for divine creatures at the same stage. Then she pauses, the way she does when she reaches for a larger model. Against 312.7 billion Divine Kingdom samples exposed over the last millennium, she says, the average proportion of elite believers at Tier 3 or above is 9.6%. Mine is 1.07%. The stated cause is allocation skewed toward basic expansion, with too little invested in individual strengthening. She adds that although Bongnay Island carries a self-circulating immortal energy system, I use it purely for the environmental bonus. No multi-level cultivation model sits on it, and its potential amplification runs under 40%. She might as well be reading me the weather. She goes further. Historical data says high-potential divine kingdoms at my stage have usually built at least one strategic advantage system by now. That means an extreme military unit, a complete set of social rules, or a powerful resource chain. Mine, despite Spirit Peach Mountain, the Enlightenment Stone, and Bongnay Island, has completed no system integration and remains pure accumulation. And believers at the Qi refining or martial disciple realm are the necessary and sufficient condition for a demigod. Given my current pace, she cannot put a date on that. I swallow hard because I have been treating the demigod threshold like a chore on a list. I ask her directly whether I have any chance of breaking through before the college entrance examination. She tells me that historically, students who reach demigod before the exam are 0.001% of the cohort. Essentially, all of them come out of metropolises like Taiko City and Cheonghae City. Yang County is a county-level city on a remote planet, and in her entire database she has not found one person here who managed it. My face does something that startles me more than the numbers did. She tries to make me feel better. Demigods account for under 5% of the population, and true gods under 1%, she says. And breaking through demands development time, massive resources, and luck at once. With my potential and a university's platform behind me, my divine kingdom will accelerate considerably. The probability of reaching demigod within 4 years of university, she says, is high. I let the breath out of my chest and tell her the purchase authority is already hers. In this era of divine kingdoms, the human race's gods are too numerous to census, and the prodigies beyond counting. An SSS-Rank talent might keep me a step ahead in a small place like Yang County, but against the whole species I have no idea where I land. Here a boy with a B-rank talent, or even a C-rank 1, gets a family's full attention. In the big cities, how many A-rank and S-rank talents walk around backed by houses 100 times heavier than the Na family? Even there, the ones who make demigod before the exam are almost nobody. Sitting with that, my earlier confidence looks naive to the point of comedy. The road is long, and although the breakthrough is harder than I assumed, I am not discouraged by it. Keep your feet on the ground and your eyes on the sky. A man should not be swayed by possessions or small gains and losses. And taking the present one step at a time is the only road that works. So I give the order I have been building toward. Alongside improving the believers, half my forces now go forward to support Yang too, because I intend to compete for first. His last report has him approaching the core after nearly 40 years of full-speed marching. Even avoiding hordes and traps in advance, his losses have reached 1 million troops. Under the evolution talent and tenfold reproduction the supply held, so his fighting strength never dipped. But the closer he gets to the core, the more Tier 3 and Tier 4 monsters he meets. And however good his command, a general cannot cook without rice. As things stand, he dares not explore on a large scale, because one serious horde would cost more unbelievers than the ground is worth. Even so, my people are almost certainly closer to that core than Naving's or Li Chonheng's. Under 2 months remain 50 years of divine kingdom time, and that is exactly enough runway to show these people what I have been sitting on. Yang 1 accepts the order without comment. Back in reality, I return to ordinary life, which now means a daily visit to the heavenly fragrance world, and in the gaps reading university brochures like a responsible young man. 10 days later, a message from Yang 2 arrives, and I am inside the alien divine kingdom before I finish lying down. The air is thick with blood, and threaded with a life aura that has not yet dispersed. The ground is chewed up, broken weapons and wet bloodstains tangled where a slaughter just finished. In the distance, my believers are scattered and their auras ragged, but they are still holding alert. And in the middle of all that damage sits an herb garden, spiritual light running through it, spirit plants growing thick enough to hide a man. Yang 2 turns to me with his small face lit up and reports a big harvest. A concealment array was covering this place, he tells me, but it was missing a corner, and the life aura leaking out of that corner is what he happened to notice. I ask what it is. He tells me it is a B-rank herb garden called the 100 Herb Spirit Pivot Academy, and his eyes glow blue as he projects the specifications into the air. It reads as a herb garden type building worth approximately 20 billion faith points. It carries a complete cultivation system for large-scale planting across medicinal herbs and spirit plants of every kind. The spiritual energy inside is stable, and the growth environment heavily optimized, which lifts both growth rate and survival rate by a serious margin. It runs refined management tuned to the characteristics of each spirit plant for efficient output. The entry recommends it for long-term resource accumulation and medicinal supply, with major benefits to development and pill refining. 20 billion, and I stand there staring at a garden. I did not expect to find this size, but this close to the core it makes sense, and it outweighs everything hauled back so far combined. He requests 1 billion faith points for a large spatial bracelet, since a garden-type building is too bulky to move without one. Granted, I tell him. The god of this place is dead, so unlike the midterm exam, I cannot invoke the rules and fold the building into my own world. An exploration-type high-order intelligent life proposing the most efficient workaround is exactly what I paid for, and against a 20 billion harvest, 1 billion is loose change. The school notification catches me before I have fully returned. Obtain the 100 Herb Spirit Pivot Academy, points plus 20 billion. Obtained assorted spirit plants, points plus 3 billion. I open the leaderboard and find myself at 38.924 billion, Nei being at 30.712 billion, Li Qianheng at 29.834 billion. One find and I am back on top, and one stroke of luck in the core is worth decades of grinding anywhere else. What I do not see is the Genius Exchange Group detonating behind me. The chorus runs through every stage of disbelief at once, demanding to know what building that lunatic Yang Baom found and why his points jumped so far. Somebody insists he works alone and should still be scraping the rim, then wonders whether the rim hides high-value core buildings. Somebody else points out that no alien god parks core buildings on the perimeter for strangers to collect. A third concludes I must already be inside the core and gets asked how a person with no team and no reinforcements walked in there. The thread ends by tagging Na Bing and Lee Chun-hang and demanding this scumbag not take first place again. In a conference room at the Lee family residence, Lee Shung-taek asks whether he should send Lee Soo-ho in again because this guy is genuinely freakish. They had clocked my points climbing, but the gap to Lee Chun-hang was comfortable enough that they half-watched. Today's 20 billion surge puts me back at the head of the class and forces everyone to take me seriously. Because a gain that size means I've entered the core. In a contest like this, luck weighs almost as much as strength, and the two-horse race now has a dark horse in it. One of them backs the plan, since by their own estimate they need 10 more years to reach the core themselves. Another warns that I am too cunning for Lee Soo-ho to pull the truth out of me. A third admits he watched the earlier video several times and fed it to an elementary intelligent life, which put an 80% probability on the whole speech being nonsense. At the head of the table, Lee Cheon-hang's expression is grim, his face cycling between pale and flushed like a man losing an argument with himself. Then he takes a breath and tells them to transfer 100 million faith points to Lee Soo-ho. Lee Sung-taek waves it off, since there is no need to pay an underling when an order will do. Lee Chun-hang says he is not asking him to gather information. Asked what for, he says to have Lee Soo-ho book a presidential suite at the Heavenly Fragrance World for a month. He wants dozens of service staff with strong reputations, high attractiveness, and good conversation, booked out to look after me. His voice gets quieter with every clause, and by the end, he cannot lift his eyes to his own brothers. The table sits stunned before it catches up, and then several of the Lee family geniuses slam the wood and give him a thumbs up. It is a brilliant move, one says, because from that video, I am plainly a lecher. A little money on top-tier service drops me into a soft trap with no energy left for exploring. Another asks why he never thought of it, since a person like me calls for exactly this kind of underhanded work. Lee Sung-taek coughs sharply and cuts that speaker off, and the room falls quiet as everyone realizes the same thing together. The tactic is nothing much, but would their eldest brother ever have said it, when he has always despised petty tricks more than anyone here? He gives them no room to wonder out loud, telling them to do as he said and to run a shift system in groups of 3, so exploration continues around the clock. This was never only about me, and Na Bing still has to be beaten. The room answers as one and calls him Hyung. Early the next morning, the invitation from Lee Soo-ho arrives, and I open by noting that every time my results improve, he suddenly wants to meet. Then I ask whether he has come to congratulate me. His expression stiffens and embarrassment goes through his eyes before he says some things are not what he would wish for. I tell him it is fine, that we have the relationship we have, and that if there is an issue he should say it, because I will tell him everything I know. He rolls his eyes, and honestly he has earned that one. He worked out long ago that last time was a joke at his expense, and he does not resent it, because he came in under orders to extract information. A man whose own motives are impure has no standing to demand sincerity from anybody. Then he gets to it. He has booked a presidential suite for me, mine until the college entrance examination, with premier tier service staff, and says I know exactly what he means. I look suitably surprised and tell him I did not expect Soo Ho-young to be this extravagant, and I am not entirely acting. Presidential suites at the Heavenly Fragrance World are not cheap and the staff are graded. Someone like Yu Yoyan counts as standard tier at 10,000 faith points for a night, while premier tier starts at 100,000. He tells me plainly that he is not funding it and that I should enjoy it whenever I am free. Then he adds with a distinct note of warning that the exam is imminent and the reward for first place enormous, so he assumes I will not have much time to spare. Lee Soo-ho is a Lee, but he and I are ordinary friends, and there are things he must do that he does not want to do. I thank him and say I will pass my gratitude to whichever friend is standing behind him. He says farewell, and that after the exam, if I still recognize him as a brother, the suite will be on his own account. The suite sits at the deepest point of the first floor. I push the door open onto a vast space furnished with exquisite wine sets and crystal glassware. One side holds a half-open lounge under falling gauze curtains, and the air carries a faint fragrance that unknots something behind my eyes before I decide to relax. The other side holds a 10-meter bed and a bathtub built for a small crowd. A holographic panel lists every profile and style with one-touch summoning and instant response, and the room is quiet, expensive, and entirely unambiguous. Whoever paid for this, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. With Yang 2 running the Alien Divine Kingdom, I have no reason to supervise anything personally, and outside the entertainment district, I genuinely do not know how to spend my hours. I understand perfectly well that the person behind this has ulterior motives, and I do not care. Somebody else pays and I enjoy it. And that is the whole of the result. What a truly good person he is. 1 month out from the exam, I am soaking in that bathtub with a dozen staff when a message from Teacher Joe calls a class gathering. I do not dare stall on that one. I get dressed, teleport into the third year class 1 classroom, and collect the entire room's attention the moment I walk in. The looks are different now, with no hostility left, only admiration and a sharp curiosity. Strength decides everything here, and even the students who find my midterm behavior disgraceful cannot help respecting the capability. My believers are strong, and I have driven deep into an alien divine kingdom with nobody carrying me. I have held first place while the gap over Na Bing and Li Chuanhang widened, and every person here wants to know how. They run the possibilities in circles. Could my believers be that far above the other two, which everyone agrees is ridiculous? Could I hold some secret method? And if so, what secret lets one person outproduce a team? They are confused and curious, and they understand that I owe them nothing, so the questions stay buried. In the front row, Li Qianhang checks the rankings again. Yang Biome at 45.7 billion, himself at 36.94 billion, Na Bing at 34.92 billion. He asks Li Songtak, with an ugly look, whether the consumption records are accurate. Li Songtak says this is the 4th time today, and that he paid the bill personally, so of course he knows. The man in question parks in that suite 5 or 6 hours a day. Li Qianhang wants to know whether my believers need no commanding, or whether I have some method for finding high-value resources. He has compressed his own rest to 2 hours a night, and my points are still above his. Teacher Joe comes in and his gaze stops on me for a few seconds, because he has watched a great deal of footage of me lately. Half of him sighs at the luck that dropped the 100 Herb Spirit Pivot Academy in my lap, and half is rattled by my believers. As homeroom teacher, he connects straight to the intelligent life and watches any student he likes, which is how he knows the exploration unit is half the story. In his private ranking, I now stand level with Na Bing and Li Chunhung. I am a star pupil of Yang County First High School, and nobody in 3rd year class 1 is stronger. This kid really does hide deep, he thinks, and he is not wrong. On the day of the Divine Kingdom battlefield, he now believes I could have done more than tear a piece of flesh off Li Chunhang. With every high-level believer in my world pulled out, the two of us would have gone to the wire. In all his years of teaching, he has never seen a student conceal his strength to this degree. I have not even graduated. I am protected by federal law, and there is no obvious reason to play the fool to catch the tiger. Had I shown my hand earlier, I might have drawn a much larger resource allocation. His summary of me is a student who likes playing the fool to catch the tiger, and is also sinister and cunning. He has no intention of policing a student's character. With strength like this, my results have a genuine shot at the Federation's top 100 universities, and a student like that brings investment home to Yang County First High School. Then he gets to the announcement, 1 month until the college entrance examination, and in 5 days the class holds its final activity, the Divine Kingdom Defense War. It will be supervised by federal government high-level intelligent life, with every student's coordinates masked behind virtual ones. Anybody may enter any classmate's Divine Kingdom and run an offense and defense engagement. The restrictions are that believers at Tier 3 and above cannot enter, that nobody may commit more than 200,000 troops, and that infiltrating a defender's core is forbidden. There are no rewards, since the purpose is to teach us how to respond when alien believers walk into our world, and what resistance to expect walking into someone else's. It is also part of the college entrance examination, though the content will only be revealed on the day. A defense war with no rewards bores me, and I am planning my exit toward a certain private room when a great many stares land on me at once. There is curiosity in them, an impulse, an eagerness, and a distinct threat of aggression. My stomach drops because these people are going to come strolling through my divine kingdom in a mob. The restrictions look comforting until you do the multiplication. 200,000 troops each, and a Tier 2 ceiling is nothing alone. But the class holds hundreds of students, and all of them together is tens of millions of soldiers on my ground. They cannot touch the core area. Fine, my periphery is not empty, starting with everything I planted around the ancient spirit tree. The more I think about it, the less smoothly this class activity is going to go. I return to reality and ask Yang 1 what she makes of it, since as my intelligent life she heard every word in that classroom. She reports that it runs every year for 3rd year class 1, that it is a friendly match, and that no participant's world has ever suffered serious damage. Then she adds that in view of my reputation, the probability of being specifically targeted is 93.2%, and protective measures are recommended. I ask what measures, and she tells me to buy defensive buildings. I nod, because after the midterm and everything since, I need no convincing about defensive buildings. If I were not still a divine creature sheltered by federal law, a man as fond of his own safety as I am would have bought a mountain of them already. With a thought, my divine kingdom lays itself out in front of me. Divine Lord Yang Biome, 1 million square kilometers. Talents omitted from the display. Believers now stand at 36 Tier 5 beings, 43,274 Tier 4 beings, and 1.25 million Tier 3 beings. Under those sit 8.3 million Tier 2 beings, 22.7 million Tier 1 beings, and 10.7 million mortals, plus 12,718 little spirits. My techniques read the Everlasting Spring technique, the Locking Heaven array, and the Extinguishing God array, both at E rank minor mastery, and the Black Tortoise Life Extinguishing array at D rank beginner level. Faith points sit at 47.9 billion against a daily provision of 755.4. The buildings run 5,000 moon wells, 5,000 sun springs, 100 monkey wine springs, and the 100 herb spirit pivot academy. After those come the ancient spirit tree at 1,000 years, still gestating little spirits, and the enlightenment stone. Then one B rank sea of flesh and blood pool, and the B rank spirit weapon forge with its small ore vein inside. Under wonders sit Bongne Island and Spirit Peach Mountain, both deployed. Under assets sit 610 Tei, the small ore veins, and unmeasured volumes of spirit fruit, medicinal herbs, and spirit plants, plus D rank, E rank, and F rank weapons. My believers have made a qualitative jump the panel does not convey. 36 Tier 5 creatures is a foundation neither Na Bing nor Li Qianheng possesses. With both the Locking Heaven array and the Extinguishing God array at minor mastery, entering a Divine Kingdom simulation battle now would send me straight up the board. The Black Tortoise Life Extinguishing array is only at entry level, but it concentrates the power of 1 million believers, and I have no use for it yet. As for the 40 billion in cash, it is not that Yang One refuses to spend it. My believers simply lack the strength to digest resources at that rate. Across these centuries, every newborn infant has had marrow cleansing powder fed to them. Yang One has spent billions on alien believer bodies to throw into the Bei Kriong blood pool and the Sea of Flesh and Blood pool, so every talented believer gets a ration. Even at that burn rate, the revenue outruns the spending. Had I not ordered every surplus faith point routed into cultivating believers, she would long ago have bought moon wells and sun springs by the thousand for the compound interest. I have been soaking in the heavenly fragrance world and never noticed the cash piling up. A beautiful woman is the grave of a hero, and Suho Hyang has led me astray. I did not expect my believers to be unable to absorb what 100 monkey wine springs throw off. I assumed the evolution talent would let me earn hugely and spend hugely, and instead my consumption cannot keep pace. If an outsider heard me describe this as a problem, they would cough blood on the spot. What divine creature anywhere sets up this many B-rank buildings inside his world? Without a single chi refining realm believer to feed, no mouth is wide enough to eat what those buildings produce. So I ask her outright whether investment in the believers has genuinely hit its ceiling. Her answer is thorough and depressing. Aptitude improves only across generations, marrow cleaning pills cannot be taken repeatedly, and the current bodies cannot withstand high-level pills, which would make them burst and die. On weapons, the Spirit Weapon Forge already overproduces badly for the troops we field. On food, between Spirit Peach Mountain and the concentrated TS meat, there is an enormous surplus. And cultivation techniques, martial skills, and arrays are one-time purchases, so the Divine Kingdom needs no more of them configured. Then she gives me the production figures, and taking 30 years of Divine Kingdom time as one unit, they read like a joke. 100 monkey wine springs turn out 10 billion worth of monkey wine, and the moon wells and sun springs return 30 million. She has bought all the seed the 100 Herb Spirit Pivot Academy can use, and the Academy produces roughly 1 billion. Surplus weapons from the Spirit Weapon Forge, plus the concentrated Tei's meat the automatic concentrator warehouses can no longer hold, come to about 200 million. Which is the moment I understand how wealthy I am, because every figure she read me has to be multiplied by 10. She reports working capital is very sufficient, and recommends negotiating with Elephant Loan to repay early and cut the interest. She has lived through this entire build-out and still, blind to the talent, concludes only that my funds are adequate. Given that the believers are saturated, her recommendation is objectively correct. I tell her there is nothing to negotiate, and that once the funds are there, I will clear it in one payment ahead of schedule. She objects that at current income, the remainder takes at least half a year to assemble. I tell her to do as I say, then sit rubbing my temples with a headache coming on. Even my own intelligent life cannot detect the SSS-Rank talent, which is beautifully safe and quietly ruinous for her judgment. 100 billion does not take me half a year, it takes me a month. Then I ask how the passive income of my divine kingdom compares to a demigod's. She tells me the median monthly income of a demigod is 50 million faith points, and I ask whether that can possibly be right because it sounds pitiful. She explains that as a divine kingdom develops, a deity's investment in believers rises exponentially. Plenty of demigods gross several hundred million a month, while 60 to 70% of that capital goes straight into the believers. The remaining 30% goes back into the world to keep the books balanced. On net income, she says, my divine kingdom is already comparable to an ordinary low-ranked deity. I ask whether it has to be that exaggerated, given that I am still only a divine creature. Without her saying it out loud, I would never have dared think it. She qualifies it patiently. My asset return ratio still lags a real deity's, but my expenses are too low, and total consumption runs under 5% of revenue. I follow the War Divine Kingdom path, yet my investment ratio sits far above the classmates who chose logistics. The midterm harvest was too large, and the evolution talent compounds it, which has thrown my income and expenditure out of balance. Fortunately, the imbalance runs in the right direction. I am a 3-year-old child sitting on a fortune of several billion, except the fortune is kept in the safest vault in the world, and nobody else may know it exists. She tells me not to worry, since more assets are always better, and after university or a demigod breakthrough, many things will demand faith points. Having many resources is a good problem, so once the shock passes, I ask what she recommends for the defense war. Given the area of the Divine Kingdom and the spread of my resources, she says, 1 billion faith points of defensive buildings covers it. She has already run the extreme case where the whole class attacks at once, and with that budget plus the Black Tortoise life extinguishing array, the assault gets stopped comfortably. I tell her I am giving her 10 billion and I want all of it spent. She objects that defensive buildings carry no investment attributes and asks whether that is wasteful. I tell her I am a tycoon now, and a tycoon whose home security is shabby is no tycoon at all. I want the Divine Kingdom turned into a hedgehog, so anyone who comes at me gets punctured until they wear their own blood. Buy the most expensive buildings on the shelf, the kind that hold up after I break through to demigod. The risk of invasion is close to zero, but I have the money, stronger is always better, and peace of mind is a legitimate thing to buy. She accepts the order, and somewhere in the Genius Exchange group my classmates are having a very different conversation. Somebody asks whether all of them descending on my Divine Kingdom together is appropriate, and gets told no school rule is broken. Somebody says they are mainly curious what stage my world has reached. Somebody proposes going in as one body and sweeping my outer resources clean, and gets congratulated for being a little evil. With Yang One handling every purchase and placement, I have nothing to do about any of it, and my life stays relaxed right up until the morning of the Divine Kingdom Defense War. Just to be safe, I pause the evolution talent before class. Teacher Joe runs through his warnings once more before the activity opens. Nobody is to wreck the ecology inside a defender's world, and defending believers are not to launch large-scale attacks. The purpose is to understand how a Divine Kingdom defense system gets built, with attention on defensive buildings, on the neutral creatures cultivated inside a world, and on special environments. He glances at me specifically while saying it, which is fair because I have generated a respectable quantity of his headaches. The room answers him as one, and he transmits his instructions to the Federal Intelligent Life. A new message lands in my inbox, a roster of one-time virtual coordinates for the whole class. Na Bing string heads the column, Li Chonhang sits under it, and mine is somewhere further down among 200 others. In the Academic Affairs office, Teacher Joe has settled beside Dean Yang Monri to watch. The dean asks whether I am really as strong as he claims. Teacher Joe says the boy hides his strength well, and that this is the perfect chance to see what his star student is made of. The dean, puzzled, points out that the defense war is a friendly match and asks how it could test anybody, and Teacher Joe just signals him to keep watching. Under normal conditions, the defense war is students touring each other's worlds, running collide engagements and going home aware of their gaps. I am not a normal condition. Teacher Joe saw the look in his students' eyes, and he knows how many will select my coordinates. Under the rules, neither Na Bing nor Li Qianhang can commit meaningful combat power. But third-year Class 1 holds nearly 200 students, and half of them choosing me is 20 million troops on my grass. He is not worried about my safety, since under federal supervision no attacker reaches the core. You like hiding, he thinks, watching the projection with visible satisfaction. Let us see whether you can keep hiding through this. My consciousness is already inside my own Divine Kingdom with Yang One beside me, and I ask whether we are ready. She tells me to rest assured, because with the current defensive strength, even divine creatures committing far heavier forces could not break the system she laid down. Then I shall wait and see. I am curious, since I know a mountain of defensive buildings was purchased, and I still have no idea what any of them do. Letting my good classmates test the waters for me is the ideal arrangement. Spatial fluctuations ripple through the edge of my world, and 2 armies arrive almost simultaneously. 400,000 troops in total, every one a Tier 2 creature, with the 2 gods' consciousnesses floating above their heads. Na Bing and Li Qianhang, first in the door. They exchange a single glance, then turn together toward the giant island hanging in my sky. Li Qianhang asks what that is, shock all over him, and Na Bing says gravely that it must be a wonder-type building. She had believed I came out of the midterm with Spear Peach Mountain and nothing else, and a second wonder inside the same world is not something she planned for. The vitality pouring off Bongnay Island is thick enough to feel from the outermost edge, and nobody there mistakes it for an ordinary asset. Lee Cheonhang asks whether the Na family invested in it. She shakes her head and says no, and as the family head's daughter she would know exactly what her house has put into me. So she stands there wondering, privately, whether the school gave it to me. Then the rest arrive, and the sky over my divine kingdom turns into a market square. No wonder his believers are strong. Somebody says, because this environment is dozens of times better than mine. Somebody demands to know why an entire island is up there, and asks whether we are honestly in the same year. The consensus lands on a hidden big shot, and the chatter runs on while their armies keep pouring in. Within moments, the rim of my world holds 30 million believers, and looking down they resemble ants covering a plate. My midterm performance angered the masses. My name is nailed to the top of the leaderboard, and now every one of them wants to see how far this place has come. In the academic affairs office, Dean Yang Monri's mouth hangs open wide enough to park an egg in. 2/3 of third-year Class 1 has shown up, and he asks whether the boy is really that widely hated. Teacher Joe laughs and says that although they are all low-tier believers, enough ants can bite an elephant to death, and this much pressure should finally force him to show what he has. Down on the ground, a few push troops forward to scout, and they do not get far before the earth begins to writhe. A full 10,000 believers are swallowed whole by the surface with nothing but screaming to mark them, and a rolling cloud of toxic smoke comes up after. Somebody identifies it as a C-rank defensive building, the Thousand Poison Swamp. Somebody else, appalled, points out that one costs 2 million and demands to know why anybody would waste it on the periphery. The swamp keeps venting once triggered, and believers around it start dropping unconscious in waves. Everyone hurries to scatter their formations. Nobody had raised a guard at the outermost edge, and a loss that size before the activity begins stings badly. Then another voice reports a second Thousand Poison Swamp, and another the same, and somebody complains he is already down 10% of his troops. These are not core combat forces, but their value is far from trivial, and losing them here will hurt a great many people in the pocket. Lee Seong-taek says his Hyung's name and observes that this divine kingdom is a bit eerie, then asks why so many defensive buildings sit out on the periphery. Lee Chon-hang sneers and asks what there is to fear, since anybody who is not an idiot would know a crowd was coming. Stacking defensive resources on the perimeter is obviously an attempt to frighten them off before they commit. Lee Seong-taek slaps his forehead, declares that his Hyung sees through everything, and marvels that I am even playing tactics. Around him, the mood recovers fast. One of them announces he brought a treasure pouch and intends to carry home as many of my spirit plants as it holds, and 2 more call him a kindred spirit. Na Bing is as interested in this world as any of them, so the whole mass moves, more than 30 million believers marching toward my depths in a column you could see from orbit. Then somebody near the front shouts and asks what that is. 1,000 robots walk out of the dense forest ahead, humanoid, bodies of silvery white metal, each with a submachine gun held ready. Their movements are perfectly uniform as they level every barrel at the soldiers in front. Lee Cheon-hang recognizes them fast, and shouts that these are patrol robots out of the mechanical divine kingdom, built entirely from regenerative metal. Each is worth 100,000 faith points, he says, and he orders shields up immediately. The words are barely out of him when the forest opens up. Dense gunfire erupts from every direction at once, and the bullets come down like a light rain, hammering across armor and filling my world with the flat metallic ringing of rounds finding steel. In the space of one breath, the ground goes red from edge to edge. Every patrol robot carries 1,000 rounds, and empties all of them in the time a man takes to inhale twice. Hundreds of thousands of believers drop where they stand. Lee Chon-hang recovers first and calls for a pursuit, since the machines need a quarter of an hour to reload. He knows that only because he once bought a robot out of curiosity for his own divine kingdom. On his word, a dozen classmates push their believers into the trees, and I watch from my core. Lee Seong-taek swallows hard and asks his Hyung why I would buy so many robots at all. The squad that just fired is worth 100 million faith points by itself, and that money could have gone into believers. Lee Chon-hang's answer is that I am rich, obscenely rich, and that they may as well strip me of everything. Gunfire opens up a long way off before he finishes. Lee Seong-taek's face darkens as he reports that those are his believers, that a 1,000-strong robot squad was waiting out there, and that his detachment is gone. Lee Chon-hang turns his head with something close to fear in his eyes. The chatter across the sky turns ugly fast. One says a second squad is working the same forest in the same hit-and-run pattern. Another insists that no human hoards resources like this and then burns them on defense instead of believers. A third shouts for a full-speed march to open ground. Their soldiers top out at Tier 2, and nothing they own can run down a patrol robot. So an army of 10 million becomes a shooting range, the machines falling back when pressed, and drifting in when the column tires. A few days pass and the main force is lighter by 4 or 5 million. I tell Yang 1 the machines have done well, that they are a lethal instrument against low-tier creatures. She thanks me for the praise in that flat voice of hers and says combat is not even their principal function. She has taken their visual access, so the moment my environment degrades anywhere or anything crosses the border, she will know. That is why she spent 1 billion faith points on them, and she adds that after I break through to demigod they will still be worth keeping. My accountant has just explained politely that I bought them for reasons I had not thought of. Past the mountains, the column breaks into open country, where a robot has nowhere to hide and shield bearers can set a line first. The machines read that arithmetic the same way and stop appearing. What opens in front of the invaders is grassland grown chest high, thick with red and black flowers. Butterflies and birds and bees work the air above it, and the scene is peaceful enough to make exactly one person suspicious. A Na family genius asks Bing Nuna why a place this fertile carries no monster beasts, not even antelope or yak. The forest behind them was the same, all that good land with nothing on it. Someone proposes that the hives in the open are the answer, that my income must come from bees and honey. A classmate walks his believers up to the nearest hive with his treasure pouch open, and the hives shake. What comes out is not the nectar-gathering wasp they watched all morning. These are bee soldiers the size of a palm, black-green and moving in a solid sheet. Na Bing's composure breaks for the first time. She orders every believer run to the nearest river, names the thing a B-rank building called the Poison Bee Queen, and says flatly that one sting kills. Divine oracles go out along the whole line. None of them has heard of the building and none dares doubt her. There are too many believers under too many separate commands, so the evacuation collapses into a stampede that kills more men than the swarm does. The bee soldiers sting anything they reach, and the stung do not fall over. They drag their swelling bodies along with the main force instead. Li Qianheng asks what a B-rank poison bee queen does. She tells him the workers gather poisonous plants and concentrate the toxins in the hives, so the soldiers carry whatever has been laid down. He looks at the stung men still jogging in formation and says the effect is not much, that this cannot be B-rank. She shakes her head. The poison bee queen is a growth building, she explains, and it needs poisonous flowers cultivated around it, and the longer it stands, the worse the toxicity becomes. He decides out loud that I bought it recently, and that spending a large sum on a B-rank building is stupid. Every expense is weighed to the last point, and a great family descendant will not touch even a C-rank building. Na Bing nods along, and then the red and black flowers she passed an hour ago surface in her memory. The column reaches a fast river and the bee soldiers turn back before the first believer jumps in. The relief up in the sky is audible from where I sit. They tell each other it is a waste. All that land given to one poison bee queen, and that defensive buildings produce nothing and sit in a divine kingdom as dead weight. They agree that whoever set this up is sick in the head, since the rules keep them out of my core anyway. How many spirit plants did I imagine they were going to pick? The complaint has a certain justice in it, and they are still on my periphery. Then a noise starts working its way up from below. One god after another reports that his men have gone dark, and there is exactly one condition under which that happens. What they are looking at is not a corpse. The stunned men stand upright with their faces twisting, their limbs folding at angles no joint permits, blood running out of the sockets. Li Qianheng gets there first, and shouts that my bees carry a zombie virus, and that no normal person touches the stuff. Below him, the poison turn on the men beside them, one becoming 10 and 10 100, while believers who have had no instruction wonder whether they may bite back. The field goes to pieces inside a minute, screaming and tearing carrying up through the column. Li Xiong takes shudders and asks Chan Hang Hyung whether he is certain, already looking at his own believers the way a man looks at something he will not carry home. For a divine creature, the zombie virus is a catastrophe, since one careless infection risks every believer in the kingdom. 2 of them announce they are done playing, and the others are welcome to keep commanding the walking dead. One says that from today he will simply walk the other way whenever he sees me. Someone suggests the obvious, that the infected are dead and the rest should go into the water instead. The believers who wade in start screaming at once, their skin rotting off at a speed the eye can follow. The river is poisoned too. The survivors turn for the mountains, and the sky becomes a chorus of disgust. One says not even alien gods keep divine kingdoms this foul, and another asks why every defensive building I own is built around poison. A third recites a textbook line that the zombie virus is a weapon of mass destruction aimed at mortals. Only believers past Chi refining or the martial apprentice realm are immune. Inside the first high school academic affairs office, the 2 men watching have gone quiet. Teacher Joe swallows and points out that the red and black growth around the hives is corpse flower, cultivated on purpose to feed the poison bee queen. Dean Yang Monri says he has lived a long time, and that this is the first occasion he has seen a divine creature dare it. He adds that the principal's eye for talent really is unique. At my core, I watch tens of millions turn into walking corpses over an afternoon, and my scalp prickles. I ask Yang Wan about the zombie virus. She answers that the defense war caps invading strength low, so the virus is ideal for clearing large areas at once. That is not what I am asking. What I want to know is whether my own believers wake up poisoned one morning. She assures me the area is isolated, that she sells the corpse flowers the moment the war ends, and that as the believers strengthen, the residue stops being a threat. There is a great deal of poison in my divine kingdom. When the crisis burns out, my classmates are under 10 million believers between them, and what survived is mostly tiered. They barely rest before the gunfire starts again, and Lee Sung-tae curses that a class activity has been staged like a professional tournament. Na Bing looks into the depths of the forest ahead and says the life energy runs strongest that way. Someone asks what to do about the robots, and she says their believers are too slow to catch anything, so they should hold their shields and stop chasing. Lee Cho-hang agrees and adds that he wants to see what I am sitting on. They meet a defensive building every so often and stop reacting to any of them. After the zombie virus, nobody intends to take these believers home, so they may as well spend the corpses probing me. 10,000 kilometers later, their combined force is down to 4 million. Then the vitality pouring out of the forest ahead stops them cold, and Lee Chon-hang says it is nearly thick enough to touch. Na Bing names it as the aura of a moon well and a sunspring, and does not sound convinced by her own answer. A cousin argues it must be a B-rank building with the same effect, since nobody invests for a return that small. Lee Cheon-hang settles it by saying they will look, and he sends his own believers in first. The deeper the column goes, the richer the air becomes, until even the exhausted men are straightening. Then somebody shouts that it really is moon wells and sun springs, and that I have bought an obscene number. The rows run interlocked into the distance with no end in sight, and what they can see is worth no less than 100 million. Na Bing asks why anyone would buy this quantity of low-yield resource buildings. Lee Seung-tae grins and announces that he is taking them first, and the survivors can split the haul later. An arrow drops out of the canopy and buries itself a foot in front of his lead believer. A voice from the trees tells the humans from outside to stay away or stop expecting courtesy. Little spirits in green come up onto the branches of the ancient trees in their thousands, bows drawn. Na Bing identifies the elf race aloud and works out the rest in the same breath. All of this exists because I am cultivating an ancient spirit tree, and what is in her eyes is not envy but respect. Cultivating an ancient spirit tree costs an enormous span of time and returns nothing in the short term. A divine creature lives 500 years at the ceiling, so one of them raises a tree of 100,000 years and no further. The elf race counts only as dependents and never produces the direct benefit believers do. Right or wrong, she admires the nerve it takes to begin one from the divine creature stage, and admits she would never dare. Lee Chon-hang and the rest are not impressed. Newly born little spirits are mortals, and even the tiered ones press the invaders less than the robots did. He orders them to take the buildings and leave immediately, since the terrain does not suit a fight. Lee Sung-tae nods and starts to move. A vine as thick as a wall swings out of the trees and hits his shield line hard enough to throw nearly 1,000 men through the air. He frowns and calls it a C-rank defensive building, a tree demon, and says he cannot tell how many are in there. The elf race lets go at once and the arrows come down without waste into unprotected eyes. The voice in the canopy tells the stupid humans that if they will not leave, they can stay and feed the forest. Every elf up there is a master archer, and each shaft finds the weakest point available. Lee Seung-tae issues a divine oracle to raise shields and charge in groups of 5. Before his men reach the nearest moonwell, the ground shakes, and roots burst out of the soil, take hold of ankles, and drag whole ranks under. Deep in the forest, something the size of a small hill starts moving toward them. Lee Chon-hang sees it and activates his mad blood talent. He shouts for everyone to run while the buff holds, naming it a B-rank defensive structure called the Treant King, warning that Foundation establishment believers might not match it. Divine oracles go out and the whole line breaks for the tree line. The Treant King answers them in a human voice, asking the invaders where they think they are running, and roots and vines converge from every direction. The screaming below is hard to listen to, because the vines do not cut, they close, and armor and bone go together. When it finishes, there are fewer than 1 million believers left on the field. Deep in the forest, the elf race bows, and thanks Lord Treant for the assistance. It tells them it likes this place, and that they will protect their home together, then walks its bulk back into the dark. Outside the trees, the faces in the sky have gone past shock into disbelief. Lee Seung-tae asks how much a Treant King is worth, since the thing just fought at the level of the Foundation establishment realm. Lee Cheon-hang takes a deep breath and says 5 billion faith points. The students go quiet, and their silence is bewilderment rather than admiration, because a high school student is essentially never invaded. 5 billion buys a mountain of resources, or holdings that pay passive income forever. A stranger looking at my kingdom would assume I was fighting a divine kingdom war. Lee Cheon-hang turns and asks Na Bing what she thinks. She says she has no interest in plundering a classmate's assets, and that she wants to see how far my divine kingdom has developed. She says it while looking straight toward my core. He points out that the Treant King blocks the road, and she points at the grass along the forest edge and says they go around. He objects that the detour runs 3 or 4 times longer, and the defensive structures along it will cost them. She answers in a cold, level tone that they are Tier 2 creatures, so who cares if all of them die? A good number of heads nod at that. One says Bing Nuna is right, that after the poison bees he was never taking this batch home. Another admits he is curious how far ahead of him I have pulled. A third says he used to think of me as a bottom-tier scumbag and has been staring at one leaf and missing the forest. Their assessment of me climbs a whole step in an afternoon, and even the midterm grudge thins out. Be strong enough and the scholars line up to argue your case for you. At my core, I ask Yang One whether the Treant King can be sent out to fight the way believers can. She says no. It is filed as a defensive structure, but is really a neutral creature, owing allegiance to nobody, and my own believers would be attacked the moment they entered that forest. So 5 billion buys me a monster that hates everyone equally. She reports that the kingdom never needed this many defensive structures, and that since the funds I handed her were so generous, her only option was to buy expensive. I tell her I understand, and then I look at the last piece she installed on the city wall. The mall entry reads back as a B-rank city-annihilating cannon out of a Tier 2 mechanical divine kingdom. It cannot be moved once placed. It requires 1 month to charge. 1 shot destroys a city. And the value is 2 billion faith points. Watching Li Chonhang probe every hedgerow would take a season, so I pull the defensive structures off their route. With nothing left to bleed them, the march speeds up enormously, and in less than a month they have skirted the elf forest. The city of technology stands in front of them. The city runs north to south past anything the naked eye can resolve. 10,000 meters above it, Bonney Island floats wreathed in mist like a piece of paradise that wandered off. And under it, the city throws back a silver-white glow. Li Cheonhang looks at the green silence behind him, then at a modern metropolis, and cannot make the two belong to one world. Somebody asks Bing Nuna and Cheonhung Young whether I am going mechanical. Gods on the mechanical path are vanishingly rare and almost all come out of the big cities, because the road burns resources at a rate even the Ney family would hesitate to fund. Na Bing corrects the assumption. It is only a city, she says, and cities from a mechanical divine kingdom have superb living environments, so housing believers in one raises the birth rate. She has a city of technology herself, and hers is much smaller than mine, even as a Tier 1 genius with a family stipend and extra funding from her father. Everything she has seen today says I am wealthier than she is. She cannot work out where the money comes from. In the academic affairs office, Teacher Joe finally perks up. He tells Dean Yang they are about to get a real engagement at last, though it is a pity Li Cheonhang's forces are ground down so far. Even the mad blood buff will not carry them, he says with genuine regret, and they will put no pressure on me. Dean Yang Manri laughs and says the boy is a bit mysterious, and that he wants to see how strong the believers are overall. I have seen the situation outside as clearly as they have, and I give the order to begin. The turret starts to turn. Li Cheonhang stares up at the mass of it and asks whether I am even planning to fight. Na Bing sighs softly and tells them all to leave, that there is no point anymore. When he asks what she means, there is no answer, because her consciousness is already gone. Energy patterns converge at the core of the barrel, and what comes out tears the sky open and lands where 1 million believers are standing. They are annihilated in the high energy before a single one can scream. When the light thins, the ground is replaced by an enormous pit with molten edges still radiating heat, and the whole world goes into a silence you could sleep in. Li Chonhang and the rest are left with their mouths open and nothing to put in them. The only questions available are whether that was necessary and who the demonstration was for. He snorts that I am impressive and takes his consciousness out of my kingdom. The rest look up at the island, out at the endless city, and back at the cannon, and none of them hides the envy. A few look at the crater where their armies were, and feel it properly. Every year the defense war is a formality where everyone probes politely and goes home, and this year ended in total annihilation. In the academic affairs office, Dean Yang Manri smiles thinly and asks whether that was what he was supposed to be shown, since the pressure was immense, but applied to the wrong party. Teacher Joe's face darkens and says nobody could have predicted this, and that those buildings together must run close to 10 billion.